What's up, y'all? Um, we're live. This is my first time really doing one of these live streams, so we'll see what happens with it, see where it goes, see if anybody jumps in. It's gonna be a idea. The idea was to kind of have a group discussion around it, but if I gotta fly it solo, I'll fly it solo. But it's something I discussed on a previous podcast. This was a couple of years ago, and it was more or less the concept of being washed. And what we're going to do is define what being washed is, talk about how we view getting older, especially as Black folks, especially as Black nerds, how we kind of view getting older and stuff. And I just want to kind of open up the door to really have this conversation about it's not so bad being old, getting older. Being an older, parent in the sensible shoes generation or whatnot, it's not too bad of a thing, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fear that we have instilled in us about our own mortality and stuff. And I don't want to get that heavy into it, but I do want to talk about when did you realize you were washed? Got less. All right, let me add him to the stream. What up? What up?
What up, man? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Cool.
Yeah, man, we just fired this thing up, and so we're gonna be talking about the concept of being washed. Realizing when you cross that threshold where you stopped really caring about what's going on in the pop culture realm and trying to keep up with the young folks. And so and I think it's a conversation that it can be funny, but at the same time, there's some heavy stuff in it.
Right,
You know?
right.
So,
Yes,
so for you, I'll ask you, since you're the first one in the stream, when's the first time
Okay.
you realized? When's the first time you realized that you were washed? Like it's over.
Oh man, it's been a few things. Athletically, mobily. Now, well, let me start at athletically. It's now there would be some haters that would tell you I was washed in the '90s.
Uh-huh.
I wouldn't listen to them, but I would say athletically, I noticed. Just playing basketball with, with 15, 16-year olds. And I used to be a teacher, right? You know this. And so they used to have these teacher versus student or senior games every year. And so my first couple of years of teaching, I was out there with them, like, yo, let's go. I was crossing them over. And I kind of noticed something as the years went on. I was a little slower. These guys were dunking. Like, what's going on? I've never been able to dunk. So what's up with that? And so that was like my first inkling that, maybe I'm getting a little washed.
Right.
And then, other than that, it's just everything else, man. Not moving as fast as I used to. And just, and then as my sons grow up, they really let you know watch. They don't care.
Right.
They'll let you know in a second. And as far as they concerned, I don't know anything anyway. I'm just here. And so it's just a lot of little things, man. I mean, I could get, as we talk, more be revealed to me. But I know it's just it's like the physical aspect is the first thing that I noticed. That's what I'm really trying to say.
I think it's wild because we mentioned the athletic piece of it. One of the things is I realized, probably late 20s, right? Me and the boys talking. We were trying to get ready for this flag football thing, and we had planned to do the air it out, whatever. And we were playing flag football in the park, and I think my first return to doing the flag football thing might have been my first indication. I had to be like maybe 25, 26. And we went out there and we played flag football. We did it for a couple of hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bro, I got home and I couldn't move.
Right.
Rolling up. but I felt like I got jumped in a parking lot somewhere, man. Like I could barely walk. My wife's like, "Hey, get in the bath, take an Epsom salt bath." I couldn't even lower myself in the tub. I was whooped, and I'm in my mind. I'm like, "Yo, this can't be happening, yo!" Like, not even 5 years ago, we was getting together on Thanksgiving and playing. We had a game called the Turkey Bowl. We was getting
Right.
we go out there, we play tackle football, no pads, up at a local school, and then go eat, go join the families for Thanksgiving dinner and stuff. I'm not even 5 years removed from that. I played flag football. I thought I was going to die. Like my leg. And, it was like my back was yelling at me. You know what I'm saying? Like it was actively mad at me. And, that's when the first inkling of washed kind of came over me like, wait a minute. And I was already working with kids at the time. So it made it even worse because I see these kids in this group home. They're out there. They can go hit the bike, go fishing, go up, work out, play some basketball, and still be wired and can't go to sleep at night. And me, I went out and played this flag football game for about 3 hours. And I thought that they was going to have to call the squad to take me up out of there.
Right. I hear you, man. And it's like that. I mean, I used to be able to, I still stay up late with my work, but I used to be able to, go to bed 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, wake up at 7, and still, be straight, fresh. And I ain't gonna say fresh, but I wasn't like groggy or anything, and just go on by my day and do what I need to do. Man, I go to bed. If I go to bed at 2 or 3 o'clock now, I mean, it'll be 10 o'clock, and I'll be like, man, and then I'm feeling stuff I never felt before. That's what's going on with my shoulder, and then my wife always messes with me because a lot of times when I get up, I'm just popping all over the place, which means my body's making sound. Like, what's that? So I'm getting up, pop, 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 pop. Like, so I'm like, I guess that's just the sound of being washed. I don't know.
All it takes is that first sneeze where you sneeze and you're like, I might have to go to the hospital. Like,
right.
You feel something pop somewhere and you're like, I've never felt anything pop somewhere. You're like, I might have to go to the hospital now. That's a sign. And it's like, it's troubling and it happens in your early 20s. And I think, a lot of if there's any younger cats watching this, and men or women, if you're younger and you watching this, the first time you sneeze and you see the upper room for a second,
right?
that's jarring. Like that's like, oh, it's about to happen. It's one of those things where you have to be kind of cognizant of it, but it's kind of a jarring thing, especially if you're in your 20s, because you're still at that threshold of youth, but you cross over into the adulthood and things aren't moving the right way. That flag football game actually was the impetus to get me back into the gym and start lifting weights again and start working out seriously again, because I'm like, I got, this old age is coming up on me and I got to be in condition to fight it. Osteoporosis is real. Intake up. Yeah, that is true. Hey, the thing about it is on StreamYard, guys, I can't really see the comments. I can see the comments, but I can't see who's posting them. So make sure you leave your name so that we can see who it is so we can include you in. And if you want to jump in the conversation, we still got plenty of bandwidth. Jump in by clicking the link that's on the Long Boxing While Black page, and you'll see it. Osteoporosis is real. Hey, listen. That first sneeze where I thought I was like, oh, I threw my back out and now I'm completely washed. And it went away. It's like a fleeting feeling. It happens for like 15 seconds and you're like, your body kind of shuts down for a second. You're like, okay, I'm good.
But you know what? I actually heard, I don't know, was it Sammy Sosa? I've always been a big Cubs fan since I was little. And I think that happened to Sammy Sosa. I think he sneaked. I could be wrong. It was a baseball player, but I thought it was Sammy. They say he sneezed, because I'm like, what? Why he not playing in the game? And then they said the dude sneezed or something, and he pulled a muscle. I'm like, what? And at this time I was younger, so I didn't know what that life was about. You see what I'm
Uh-huh.
saying? This is back, like late '90s, something like that. And so I'm still in my, early 20s, whatever. And something like you got the game because you sneezed. And so, as you get older, you start to realize, oh, okay, you know, all the
Well,
stuff you hear your parents say, and all that type of stuff. First like, man, old man, get on out of here. And then you get a little older, like my dad always told me, keep living. You know what I'm
mhm.
saying? Just keep living. And then I'm like, oh, okay. I'm starting to see, at 44 years old, I clearly see.
Right. Well, and I think one of the interesting parts about it is because it's not just a physical thing that happens. I realize,
Yeah, yeah,
and I think a lot of times when you're working with kids, because we both have that background of working with kids, you start realizing that you might be washed and out of touch a little bit earlier. I remember a very clear conversation I had with a kid that was in one of my group homes where he was a big Omarion fan, like Omarion mega fan. And
wow.
I've never experienced nothing like here. Because I'm a hip hop kid, right?
Right.
I ain't never experienced, with the dudes I grew up with. I never experienced dudes that were these like huge mega fans of R&B singers. I didn't really see that.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? That wasn't something that was in my, and so I wasn't trying to dismiss what his experience was, but this dude was like an old Marion mega fan. I'm like, yeah, I ain't really into B2K like that. I wasn't really into the
Right.
Marion thing. And then it's like, I remember that in the house, you got served was like, was like this huge thing. The kids loved watching it. And I remember laughing hysterically watching Omarion get jumped and beat up in front of the kids. Like I was on the floor gasping. I couldn't even breathe. I was laughing so hard. And little dude was like, he was mad at me. And he's like, man, I bet you wouldn't say any of that to Omarion's face. Bro, I'm a
Man,
grown
come
man,
on.
dog. Come on, man. I'm a grown man. I'm like, I don't know what you gonna do to me? But the concept was this dude was super invested and he made this hero out of Omarion. And I'm like, bro, I can't even relate to what he's talking about. Like,
Right.
and that was another thing because I'm like, man, and I start having more and more of these conversations where I can't relate to what these kids are talking about. And the other side was I had kids that were like older spirits, and watching them, it kind of warmed my heart seeing them kind of be the young old men in the house because they're like, man, you listening to that Omarion, man, you need to get up on that Key Sweat, man, the old school stuff. I'm like, oh
Right.
no, bro,
No.
no. But
Come on.
watching kids talk about stuff that you grew up with or stuff that was in your recent memory as old school, that's a jarring sign.
Yeah, that is. That is.
And
Yeah,
go ahead.
go ahead.
Well,
I was just gonna say, yeah, that is funny. Uh, well, I guess when it comes out for me in terms of being watched in general, it's more of a part of me. I'm kind of proud of it in a sense, in
right.
some aspects, and then the other aspect, I'm trying to keep a balance, if I can say that. So, some of the stuff that that you can categorize me as being wise, I'm cool with, with some of the hip hop that I grew up on and that I still listen to. Of course, Jay-Z, that's like I think he's the GOAT, but that's me.
Right.
And so a lot of his stuff I still listen to. I still got playlists dedicated just to Jay-Z and all Jay-Z related, stuff that he's featured on, right?
Right.
And so if somebody come to me, they talk about, I don't know who's the big thing now. I don't even know.
Little something.
Let's say the baby or little baby, all these babies, right? And see that type of stuff. I don't care anything about. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Now I've heard a couple of songs that I like, but I'm not here trying to keep up with every song that Lil Baby or the Baby comes out with. Now I'm not hating on them. I mean, they,
Mhm.
you know, it's good for the people that, you know, they're fans and whatnot. It's cool, and I recognize good music. You know, they put out some stuff, but when I listen to it, it just don't hit me that way. So when it comes out to that type of stuff, whatever. On the other side of it, you know, sometimes I try to, try to stay as knowledgeable as I can just to keep it so I can have the conversation, especially with my boys. You know, I got some get ready to go to college next year.
Uh-huh.
So I try to keep up, try to keep it balanced as I can. But, I'm not really trying to keep up with, with the kids like that, man. It'd be all right. You know what
Well,
I'm saying?
I think that's the natural flow of things because I'm looking at it like this, there are new artists that come out and I'll listen to their stuff or whatnot. And I'm like, okay, this is dope or whatnot. But
Yeah.
the urge to emulate what these cats are doing, I doesn't exist anymore in me. And
Right.
I remember very clearly being in high school, getting the issue of the Source where they had the fashion stuff coming in and they would show the different rappers and how they were dressed and things like that. And that was like a seminal moment for me. Like, okay, this is what I want my outfit and gear to look like when we go to back to school shopping. So I work all the summer, stack my money up. And that was kind of a lookbook. It was a weird thing, but I'm like, I remember very clearly there was one where I'm like, Method Man had on this Cowboys jersey. I'm like, I need that. I need that Cowboys jersey. Or see
Right.
a Black Thought in a video for the Roots, and he had on like a polo and the Timbos, and I'm like, okay, that's what I want to wear. And so I was really moved by that kind of stuff. And even through college, you would just kind of look and see what the cats was wearing to kind of determine what your fit was going to be and make a little spin on that fit. But now I see these little young dudes out there. I'm like, oh man, this dude made some music I like, but man, ain't no way I'm wearing that.
No.
And some of the stuff I'm looking at, like, bro, they wearing the stuff that we were wearing in the 90s, but it's new to them now. It's kind of a
Right.
weird thing. So it's kind of circling back. But the idea that we want to emulate what these younger cats are doing, I lost that somewhere in my late 20s. And I know cats
Yeah.
that are still on that, where they're looking
Yeah.
at what these young boys and young girls is rocking, and that's what they on. For me, I'm not moved by that. I wear what I
Right.
like, and I got a whole story behind the dress part of it, the dressing part of it. But I wear what I like. I wear what I'm comfortable in, and I don't really care. I'm not really invested in in that anymore, I guess.
Right. And even in the area of marketing, that's why it's set up the way it's set up. You see what I'm saying? Um, I don't know what the age is exactly, but it's got to be late teens to maybe mid 30s. That's the target that where a lot of these companies and marketers are trying to get because they will spend money on the new thing. And
Right.
this is why even when I was talking about hip hop, this is why seemingly hip hop used to be looked at, or probably with some people still looked at as a young man's game
Mm-hmm.
because it's all new. And I heard Jay-Z talk about this one time, talk about how hip hop is only 40-ish years old. And so a lot of things we're just not experiencing. And we never had artists that, have been, never had artists, this for the first time we had artists, hip hop artists that are like in their 50s going into 60 years old now. A
Right.
lot of these cats that started when they was in the, late 70s, 80s, LL Cool J, all these guys. This is the first time we've had that. So, now what do we do? Guys our age, what do we listen to? We
Right.
still like hip hop, but we still need to have somebody to listen to. And for me, like I said, I'm in Little Baby or whatever. That's just an example. But the Little Babies of the world, that's just not for me.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
I
And so
said,
that's so now we're in this kind of weird position where guys like us who are in late 30s, early 40s, we still enjoy hip hop. There's some things in other rings that we still enjoy, but at the same time, we're not trying to keep up with the newest thing, but we still want to, I would still like to get new, just like what Nas is doing now.
mm-hmm.
He's still putting out heat. You
Right.
see what I'm saying? And so I appreciate that.
Well, and I think one of the things we want, because this does go into another topic that I was
Yeah.
planning for another show, but I do feel like we can discuss it here. One of the things I realized is growing up, a lot of the artists that I listened to were only really a couple years older than me. You know, even in high school,
Yeah.
some of these cats was like 21, 22 years old out there creating stuff. Nas started out when he's like 16, 17 years old when he showed up on Live at the Barbecue with Main
Right.
Source. And you know, and then, you know, with, you know, Third Base and all other stuff, he was still a very young man. And I look at it, you know, the rappers, the R&B singers, when we were younger, a lot of those cats were trying to present them. They were children trying to present themselves as grown men.
Right.
Look at Jodeci. Jodeci was literally a bunch of teenagers, but
Right.
they presented themselves as grown adult men. And the R&B, you know, the female R&B groups, SWV were a bunch of teenagers. You
Yeah.
know, TLC were a bunch of kids. They were presenting themselves as adults for whatever reason. You know, and I think that was what it was. You were young, you present yourself as grown. Now it's there are dudes that you're like, this Joker, like 2 Chainz is older than me.
Right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And some of these
It took
cats
him a
are
long time to get in the game. Yeah.
some of these cats are mid 30s, but they present themselves like they 20, 22 years old.
Mm.
And I think it's kind of a regressive thing in hip hop. I think, you know, the idea that youth is primarily the single most important thing. And it hurts a lot of our older artists because right now we're in a time now where we're actually losing artists who are actually dying of things like heart attacks. And Dr. Dre from Yo MTV Raps is
Yeah.
dealing with, you know, the late stages of, you know, diabetes and stuff where he's facing amputations and things like that. We are actually seeing the other end of it. And I think one of the things is, and that's the thing I've said in a lot of other groups, right? I mentioned this in a lot of other groups, right? I said it's wild watching how Bon Jovi can sell out. They've been making the same album for 25 years.
Yeah.
They will never change their sound. They will all, but they'll keep coming out with new music, and people will still buy the album. Their fans will still show up for them. What hip hop group can say that?
Mm.
And I think a lot of it came in that youth obsession where cats got so wrapped up in trying to be young and trendy, they started changing up everything to stay trendy, and they ended up alienating the audience because it don't sound right, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
And people are craving the original sound. But as fans, we still got to go out and support. Like when your favorite artist been on the underground dropping CDs, dropping mixtapes, but we don't forgot about them. We're not buying their music anymore because they're old. They're not popping anymore. And I feel like from a hip hop standpoint, that's kind of it. I'm not saying dooming the culture because the culture is stronger than that. But I do feel like it's putting a shelf life on the culture where hip hop ends up becoming like jazz, where jazz kind of got out of touch and got so caught up with new and eclectic sounds that we're just now going back and remembering what Thelonious Monk was doing and going back and remembering the sounds Coltrane was laying down that people weren't really prepared for.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I'm just agreeing with what you're saying because at one point jazz was the mainstream. That was it. You know, that was the main music, especially for black people. You know, I'm a big fan. You know, Coltrane and Wynton Marsalis. I mean, I could go on. You know, we could have a whole topic just did with jazz with me. But yeah, you're right. And then for something happened where it's just, you know, it didn't become, you know, music was still being put out,
Right.
but it just wasn't in the mainstream anymore. You know, you have to go to like certain festivals and stuff to, you know, to catch some jazz, but it's hard. You know, even before COVID, it's hard to find you know, a good jazz, you know, show, a good artist that you like coming to your town. That's a rarity now. Whereas that was the thing back in the day.
Right.
Well, by the way, I saw Ricardo. If you still on, man, hop on, dude. I saw he left a message. I wanted to mess with him.
And I want more people, and I just posted it in the comments. Hey, join the stream, if you guys, can see the comments or whatnot, hop on the stream. If you're on the Long Boxing While Black page, I just made it as an announcement. We can have up to 10 people on here. Jump on. This is hosted through StreamYard. So, and a lot of us have been dabbling with Facebook and Facebook's permutations and getting randomly thrown in Facebook jail for stuff,
Right.
So, but this is hosted through StreamYard, so maybe that's a workaround for it. So jump on and jump in the conversation. I add you to the stream. I think one of the things is, and that's why there's this disconnect with younger hip hop fans and older hip hop fans. And it's kind of interesting seeing these younger cats with these YouTube channels hopping on, these younger cats with these YouTube channels that are going back and rediscovering old school 90s era hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like blown away. And they're like, man, everybody had a different style. The content they were talking about was real and all this other stuff. And I look at them and it kind of hurts my heart because I'm like, but y'all can have this.
Yeah.
If you would just embrace the uniqueness of it. Because we even ran into it in 90s era hip hop where, and I know regionally it's a different thing, depending on where we are regionally, you're going to have a different experience. But I remember very clearly hearing Brother Lynch rhyme for the first time. And then everybody in the city started rhyming like Brother Lynch.
Yeah.
Everybody who was coming out started rhyming like him. And, RBX and a lot of those Bay Area cats, everybody's kind of emulating their style. But it was interesting to hear somebody who had their own kind of sound come out and you could get into it. So I do think we did have the copycat thing is what I'm saying, but It wasn't to the point where it was so homogenized where you only can blow up if you have this sound, this specific sound. You only can we got another one. What's up, man?
What's going on, y'all? What's happening?
What's up, man?
We are Rich in the stream now, so we doing things. Like I said, I think one of the things is hip hop from an old head's perspective, I guess. And I'm a young head compared to some of the cats I talk hip hop with. I think right now we're so commercialized and so homogenized that you only can blow up if you have a specific sound, and that's it. There ain't no other sounds that you can have. Your beat has to sound like this. You have to have this amount of auto tune. You have to have this amount. You have to have this cadence. You have to have this flow and stuff. And I think that that's one of the things where it gets harder for older heads to connect with the music. And so we go back to the artists that we're familiar with.
Yeah.
That's the real. And younger cats are latching onto it. Younger folks are latching onto it because I see, one of the hottest things on YouTube is reaction channels. People reacting to old school hip hop, old school hip hop, 90s era hip hop, 90s era movies, 80s era movies.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of those, and it's amazing to see the look on their faces when they hear certain artists and hear certain songs. And the other thing that's a trip too is when how, and I guess we do it too. Like you hear a song and you thought that was the original sample of the song, and so you can almost trick them by playing the old song. They think it's about the rap verse about to come in, and then they keep singing. You know what I'm saying? And so a lot of times, that's just the generational thing. Right. But that happens all the time. But I like watching those reaction videos like that. I think that's kind of cool.
So, Rich, man, you with us now. So, man, what's your experience? What's the first time you realized that you was washed, man? I saw your comment.
Bro. Man, okay, so look here. Like I said in the comments, It was maybe about 7, 8 years ago. I'm chilling with this honey. We about to get down. I'm thinking we about to jump into some action, and I throw out my back, and I'm just like, oh, okay, nah, man, nah. Well, we about to get in the gym, and we gonna stay in the gym.
Hey, it's like, look, what did Bane say? Looks like victory has defeated you.
Man, man, snatch failure from the jaws of victory. Yes, sir.
Right.
That's wild, man, because you're like, man, I'm about to get out here and show out. I'm an impressor. It's going to be amazing. This could be starting something, and then boom, your back goes out.
Man, my back was like, oh, nah, nigga. Nah, nigga.
Slow it down. Like I said, man, I can't even do the Bane voice anymore. It's like, looks like victory has defeated you.
Right. Victory has defeated. Yeah, those are bars, by the way.
So we're on here, for those that are just tuning in, and we keep getting people popping in and out, checking us out. The wash thing it's not bad. It's not. It's kind of, once you embrace it, because I think there's a mourning period that you go through where you do mourn the loss of your youth and your connection to what's popular. And I think society kind of conditions you to almost feel like that's where your relevance goes. Like you ain't even relevant no more, right? But I think that you do throw your arms around it. You embrace it. You get comfortable with it. I know when I first started, one of the first things is like, when I started out with my own business, first thing I did, we went to the store and I had to change up my wardrobe because I had all the corporate stuff and I wanted to get away from it. I wasn't wearing no ties no more. I wasn't wearing a suit no more. And so I go into the store and I start looking for what I want to wear. And first thing, I hit the internet to see what's fashionable for the year or whatnot. And I got sick of it, bro. I'll be honest with you. And I landed on cargo shorts because I do a lot of camera stuff. I have to have my pockets for my gear, and shirts with superheroes on them. And that's what most of that haul ended up being, was comic book shirts and shorts. That's all I wanted to wear, and that's really what my outfits, my wardrobes are nowadays. I don't care if it's fashionable. I ain't dropping $300 on anybody's shoes. I'm not, I'm not wearing the Air Dookies that Yeezy just dropped. I'm not doing any of that stuff. I'm not spending money on that. And I realized that was another aspect of being washed. So from a fashion standpoint, what was your signal where you're like, I'm opting out. I don't want to participate in this anymore?
You go ahead, Rich.
All right, Les. You gonna lob it over to me? Okay, all right. Man, I'm gonna be real now. In a certain forum that we're all aware of, everybody gets on Ronell Keith Mills about them baggy pants, about them quote certain forum pants. Look here, man. I have a soft spot in my heart for those pants. Like, we ain't talking about the MC Hammer joints from 1990, 1991. But I mean, yeah, I do still like my baggies, man. Matter of fact, I got a little plug that I'm going through right now where I still get like the baggy cargo sweatpants and stuff like that. Apparently, you can't find baggy jeans anymore, but the baggy cargo sweatpants, I mean, those are out here for the taking. So yeah, right. I'm all about those. Man, well, with me like borderline 400 pounds, now you ain't gonna see me in no skinny jeans because 390, 385, and that is not congruent with skinny jeans. So nah, man, no.
No, man, you put on skinny jeans at my size, when you end up looking like a melted ice cream cone, bro.
Hey, hey, your boy wants to get in. He said, how can
How can
isn't
I
isn't that Ronell right there?
Yeah.
Hop
Hey,
on in, man.
the thing about it is you can't, the skinny jeans movement. Here's the thing. I saw that. I peeped that at the beginning. I'm like, man, skinny jeans movement. Everybody dressing like the extras from the old Double Dragon video game. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Cats walking around looking like they remember the black dude with the afro. He had his skinny jeans on in the first level.
Right.
And so y'all walking around looking like Billy Lee from the Double Dragon, and I think it's overtaking the market. My jeans aren't super baggy, but I got one pair that was borderline skinnies and they got retired quick. I didn't even know it. I put them on like, oh, this is not the move right here. If I got to lay on the bed, they fit, but if I got to lay on the bed and roll back, nah, bro. I'm not coercing myself in no jeans, man.
But you know what? I think my take on I try to be again, I go back to balance. Okay. Once I realized that I was wearing baggy jeans, I immediately switched. But I didn't go. I just couldn't, I didn't. But see, here's the thing. I think this happens to a lot of us. We get so every generation there's a part where we get comfortable.
Right.
Maybe around 2005, maybe 2010. That's how I look, and we're there forever. And so with me, I just caught myself, and I think it was messing around with you guys on HN. You see what I'm saying? And it's like everybody, they start getting on everybody about the jeans. I said, hold on, man, let me look at my jeans. And so that's when I decided to make sure that I don't wear tight jeans, but at the same time, I try to make sure they're kind of slim fit a little bit.
Right.
But without being ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? And so I try to keep it balanced, but that's a trip. Well, Richard dropped out.
Yep. You probably will jump back in.
Yeah.
This thing
is on Skyler.
So the wild part about it is, I think from the fashion standpoint, it's not vastly different from what we grew up with. It's funny watching people laugh at what Cass is wearing in the 2000s, because 2000s, that's when it really kind of, where the bagginess just kind of took over. Like,
yeah, it was man, look, it was ridiculous.
Right. It's like, man, these are almost parachute pants. Y'all wearing them Jinko joints, man.
Well, yeah. Now in the NBA draft, didn't LeBron and them have them big old baggy tuxedo pants?
Right.
Man, those suits, dog. Dude.
They was wearing them Tom and Jerry zoot suits, bro.
Man, Carmelo, D-Wade, all them cats, man. You go back and watch that stuff, man. They had enough material for 2 suits. The way, we wear suits now. Man, it was a trip, dude.
But we can't bag too much, because I remember clearly the first cat in like 7th or 8th grade I saw wearing their pants backwards because Chris Cross dropped. It had to be 7th grade. So, the influence was there. People was wearing they stuff crazy back then too. But I think there's a balance to be had there. And if you're as you're an adult, you kind of, I think most grown folks latch on to their way of wearing stuff, and that just becomes firm at some point in time where you're like, I ain't doing this no more.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Where it becomes, oh, there's Skyler.
What's up, y'all? How y'all doing? How y'all doing out there?
What up, Sky?
Well,
I've been giving y'all commentary. I'm trying to parent and watch y'all, and now I'm about to be in here at the same time.
Hey, it's one of those things, man. That's what the brand is going to be. It's Blurting Wild Dad, man.
It really is tough. I can't read comic books with stop. I'm out here.
You got your hands full,
I'm
bro.
Yeah. But man, I'm digging what y'all saying though, man, especially about wearing baggy jeans and baggy clothes and stuff. Cause man, that was a transition to realize you wearing super baggy clothes.
Right. Well, and it's also embracing it. Like, look, I'm wearing what I'm wearing. I'm cool with it. I'm comfortable. It makes me happy. Ain't nobody I'm trying to impress anymore. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's the essence of this wash thing, where you realize I'm comfortable with who I am. I'm not competing with the world anymore. And that's a young person's game, you know?
Yeah.
And even going out, and I think that's one of the toughest parts, going out on the town, you know, for you can't, you know, you get older and it's like, man, I need to look a certain way, or I need to go present myself a certain way. So once you reach that wash threshold, what's it like trying to get up and go out for a night on the town? What's that like for y'all? Because I have struggles with it. I want to hear what y'all are like with it. And it's pandemic, I know, but let's pretend like we're 2 years before the pandemic.
Well, me personally, I don't really have a big issue with it. And I say this, it's funny you said something about I think David put a comment about dating and all this. See, the thing is, my wife helps me out in a lot of areas, because there were some times that I was, you know, like I don't wash, but at the same time, my wife kind of keeps me. She's more up on stuff than I am sometimes, and so she'll just call me out, and she'll say, you know, hey, you know, are you still wearing that jacket? You know, that was from 2002, and so a lot of times it'll be comments like that that'll wake me up, and I say, oh yeah, this jacket is kind of old, and it is kind of made kind of messed up. And so I'll just start wearing it and I'll buy something new. But it would take her to say that, because see, the thing is, you know, I've been married 20 years.
Right.
So when it comes to that date, I don't know what's going on out here in these streets. You know, look, God forbid, if anything should happen and me and my wife separate, I would be lost. I don't know what's out here now. I'm scared for my boys. I don't know, man. You don't know who. I mean, you hoping that, you know, the person that you dating is even a female. I don't know. I'm just saying. And I'm not even speaking against it. I'm just saying I don't know what's out here. So when it comes down to that type of stuff, you know, my wife, she keeps me balanced, because I need it, man. Because sometimes, I guess the whole thing with wash, you know, you get comfortable and complacent, and then you just in your own world. And I think that's what happens. And until somebody says something, you just gonna keep going. You know, hey, it's 2005 all over again. Let's go. You know, so that's my take on it.
I remember having to retire. It was kind of painful having to retire that Rockaware jean jacket from Burlington Coat Factory.
Yeah, see those exactly.
Sierra 2003.
Right.
But it had to be done. You know, and it is one of those things, you know, I'm a grown man. I'm out there going to the gym or whatnot. And you know, when you get to a certain status, you do have where the younger girls see you as a potential sugar daddy or whatever. You out here in these streets, I can't tell when somebody's flirting. I don't know anymore. It's washed. I don't know anymore. I'm not even looking. And I'm sitting there like, girl, I'm old enough to be your dad. I'm old enough to be your uncle. I'm sitting there looking at it, it's like, why don't you go put on, you know, it's like, you can't work out in those shoes for real. Like, you get what I'm saying? So the reality of it is, you know, the entire going out thing, that was that's one that still vexes me. I don't know what to wear, what we supposed to go out. What's the dress code? Rich, what's your experience with that, man? Because you live in the single life, man.
Man, fellas, look here. When I go out, it's basically one of two extremes. You know, either I'm rocking a walking suit like I got on right now, or I'm rocking a big old white tee and some of them baggy cargo sweatpants that I referenced earlier. It's one of them two. I mean, ain't no in between because I really don't even wear jeans anymore. I couldn't tell you the last time I bought some jeans because
Oh wow.
the way that I like anymore. So yeah, it's either walking suits or a t-shirt and some baggy cargo sweatpants. That's it.
Right.
Wow.
But you comfortable in that, man. I think there's an air of, I do think that does kind of give you an air of, look, man, I'm wearing what I'm comfortable in, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and embracing that element of it. But like I said, man, going out on the town, who am I trying to impress? At the end of the day, I'm trying to impress the people who live in my house and the person that sees me in the mirror. And that's really it. And so I don't want to say my standards have lowered getting older, but my standards have lowered. I don't care. I think being proud of being watched is you just don't care as much anymore. And I think that there's a part of grieving that old part where you actually did worry about that kind of stuff. You know?
What's that old saying? Being comfortable in your own skin. That's when you are officially washed, when you are like 100% comfortable in your own skin.
Right.
So,
dude, I just thought about that. I think that's why it's so uncomfortable for some people because they're not uncomfortable. They're not comfortable being themselves. It's a challenge. They've been fighting that their entire life, being comfortable with who they are, and it's kind of intimidating for them. So I like that, being comfortable in your own skin.
yeah, that is good. Yeah, I'm all for that, man. I have gotten to the point where I really, I have tried some stuff, but it's for me. I'm not really doing anything to impress anybody. I could care less. You know what I'm saying? Whatever I like that, being comfortable in your own skin. If I'm comfortable with what I'm doing, it is what it is.
Right.
It's just like, like some of you guys were getting on me about my Jordan executives. And so my thing was, I got other, I got some other kids, but I used to like, and I still got them. I used to like them because they were literally comfortable when I put them on. And they actually went with I would wear them to church. I would wear, it went with a lot of my outfits. So, even though, I was getting ragged on for about a week, or maybe 2 weeks, like 1,000 comments in that thread. Anyway, that's another story. But even though I was getting ragged on, I didn't really care. Like, I'm still rocking these things. I mean, I like them.
Right.
This is how I'm rolling. I got a good deal on them. They only cost me like $40. Let's go. I'm not about to spend $200 for you Negroes.
Unless taking some Jordan 11s to the next level.
Well, shoot, I remember I was looking at shoes and I'm like, I want to wear shoes that nobody else is wearing. And so I went back to old school and started rocking the Diodoras.
You know what, man? I remember.
And those are dope, man.
Yeah, I remember you posting about that.
And those were probably the most comfortable shoes I'd ever purchased up until that point, to the point where I'm like, these are old man shoes. Like, these are too sensible. Like, they feel too good. Like, I can fall asleep standing up in these. I need to, and I switched it up. So I went from the Diodoras, and then I forgot somebody ended up posting a link to cop some Huaraches, and I had those, and that's my current shoes that I'm wearing. But they're comfortable. I ain't got to fight with them. They go with everything, and that's how I evaluate shoes now. I used to be all into the sneakerhead. I had shoes that matched all the little outfits that I wanted to put on. Man, I'm over that, man.
Right.
And so, I think that there's a balance to be had. Sometimes you want to look good for yourself. And I think that's the concept of the wash thing that we do need to wrap up is You want to look impressed. You want to impress yourself. And I think that's the essence of embracing the concept that you finally reach that wash threshold where you're like, only person I need to impress is me.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
For real.
So, so I had a couple of questions here to kind of steer the conversation, but it's been flowing, man. Did you guys rebel against what being washed? Did you rebel against it? Be honest.
At first, you know what I'm saying? Well, I speak for myself. Really, when it came down to the concept of being washed, I didn't know I was washed until somebody pointed it out. And that's the thing. So when it was first pointed, now it can be pointed out in various ways. You know, maybe like I said, it's been my kids, it's been my wife, it's been some of you guys. You know, somebody would say something and then you would stop and listen. Hold on, am I washed? I guess I am. And so when you first hear it, there is some resistance there because number one, you don't want to be washed when you first hear it. It's because it has a negative connotation. And then the other thing is, okay, what can I do to, improve this situation? And so, but then I guess just over time, man, you just get, you get used to it, whatever.
Right.
But yeah, initially I fought against it when I first, because I thought I was still in it. I thought I was still current, hip, whatever you want to call it. And but everything moves so fast, man. That's why I was talking about marketing earlier. The trends change, like almost on a daily basis, especially now in the era of social media. There's always something new coming out. Always. And that's why, just to get off on this a little bit, that's why, when we were talking about music, it used to be, let's say a new Nas album come out or whatever, you would live with that album for a while. Everybody would talk about that album for weeks, if not months. Because you had to physically buy the medium. You had to buy the CD. You had to put it in your CD player, listen to it. You had to go track by track. Maybe you could skip a track, but I'm saying it was there. Now, something new comes out. You don't even have to download it. You just stream it. The thing comes out, you just add it to your playlist in less than a second. Right. And then, but the thing is, like 5 other things come. You don't even have to, you don't have to get in a car, roll to the record store. You don't have to ask your mom for a ride because you want to buy the new music. It's right there. And so I'm bringing that up because that's just a trend. Everything is so instant now until the point where, it's easy to get lost in so much stuff hitting you. Whereas back in the day, it took a little bit more effort. So, now you just, that's what makes it easy to really, just say, forget it. I'm just going to get to a point where I'm comfortable and because I can't keep up, Right. Ask for a ride because there's so much stuff hitting you. Whereas back in the day, it took a little bit more effort. So, is that me talking? Now you just, that's what makes it easy to really, just say, forget it. I'm just.
Right.
You know what? Now, since we talking about it, there's like a dichotomy of being washed, and y'all already know.
Yeah, look at it.
When I say this name, y'all already know what that dichotomy is. Y'all remember Jerome from Martin, right? Okay,
right.
Jerome was comfortable in his own skin. He was rocking the curl from back in the day. He had the gold tooth from back in the day. He was rocking the threads from back in the day. But Jerome still thought that he was hot. That he was that thing out there in the streets trying to the club and get all them young tenderonis and everything. Like he was still with it.
A wild icon. And
Ricardo has decided to join us from his palatial estate.
What up, Duck?
What up, man?
What's going on, Ricardo?
A couple of things. I
Anchor.
want to start out with a couple of things real quick. Can y'all hear me okay? Okay?
I
I
did.
don't know how I should feel about the fact that the concept of the show is about Wash, and y'all felt the urge to make sure to tag my name as if I was one of the first people y'all thought of when you thought of Wash. That's okay though. We family. Second of all, y'all all kind of already said a lot of things that I was going to say, but I just wanted to say what's up, fellas. I'm actually doing some electrical work with my guy here, but I want to tune in. I got some thoughts as far as Wash. As far as clothes Wash, I kind of, y'all, I almost want to put Miss Williams on because I don't feel like I'm really Wash. I feel like I could have brought Wu Wear back, y'all. I really do. I feel like I could have brought the Wu Wear back, and I could have brought the Jamaican Wallabies, all that back. I'm just gonna say that. That's it. That's it. It would have still been in style. Jabot jeans, still be in style if I was wearing them. But she threw them all out, yo.
Hey,
Wow.
Jabot's used to be. That was an event. If you showed up in Jabot's,
Man, you was the man. You was the man.
you was the GOAT of the school.
Oh my goodness! I only had like 3 pair, and I wear them same 3 pair. I ain't care.
Jabot's, bro.
I forgot about those, man. Yeah.
Oh, after
Did
that,
you-
comments, anything that DMX wore, I went and got. I'm not joking. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. I got a Scully cap on with the ski mask, rocking it like it's like 60 degrees. It ain't even cold like that. But I ain't care.
Wow.
Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah. See, for me, I remember very clearly. I remember the Artifacts dropped an album, and dude had the ski goggles on, right? He had the big ski goggles on, and I'm like, I need that in my life. I'm in Omaha, Nebraska, right? He had these big ski goggles on in the middle of the damn summer, and a fisherman's vest. I thought I was the lick right there. But the DMX thing is dope because I know a lot of cats that were deeply influenced by you dress like your favorite rapper. You know what I'm saying? Cats was in the pot, is wearing they had the bandana tied, however they wanted to have it tied, that's emulating that style, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, Biggie, Cass is wearing that ugly sweater, that Cosby sweater. You know what I'm saying?
Like the Coogee.
Oh.
Was that
Yeah.
Coogee?
The Coogee, and the fake Coogee was worse than Coogee itself.
Right.
Hey, you ain't been going through my pictures, have you, bro?
No,
That was one time. Nobody knew it was fake. It was Jordan.
back in the days when I wanted to be a miniature Russell Simmons before he kind of got aired out, I was Fat Farm down, and they had the worst jeans ever. Fubu and Fat Farm had the worst constructed jeans ever. Zipper always broke, stuff never worked right. But I was Fat Farmed out, bro, and then I was Fubu'd out in probably my senior year in high school and into my freshman year in college. So I was influenced by that stuff, and there's nothing wrong with it. But it's weird to see, and I'll put it out there. It's weird to see 43-year-old dudes that are still trying to dress like their favorite rappers, bro. Like,
Yeah.
you fighting Washed at that point. You fighting Washed. You got you in the 12th round, and Washed is kicking your ass.
Stand the 8 count, man. Really.
Oh, man.
PKO. PKO.
All these comments I feel are directed to me. Like, get
Nah.
with it, Ricardo. You watch.
It is what it is, though. You know. Well, let's drop that now too. Hey, so I'm gonna just tell you, I'm realizing StreamYard requires some bandwidth. So if I drop out, I'm gonna restart this thing. But it's a bandwidth hog. And so, but yeah, man. To your point, Les, you were talking about actually going out and buying the physical media. Who here remembers camping out at a record store the day on Tuesday when your album's about to drop?
Oh man,
Wait,
man.
The audio sounds kind of funny. Let me see
Okay.
something. Give me a second.
yours? Does everybody
I
else?
think-
Or is this Brian
Uh,
sounds bad?
can you say that again, Brian? I want to.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Now you sound good. Now you sound good.
Okay.
Now.
I was saying, who remembers camping out outside of your favorite record store on Tuesdays when you knew the new album was dropping?
I never did the camping out thing, but it was just more like when Tuesday came and the album was dropping. Then hey, I'm going to get my music. But and that's why I brought that up, because it used to take effort to get the new stuff, man. I mean, like you in high school, you don't have a car. You got to ask your moms or ask your cousin or your big brother, whatever, for a ride just to pick up the music. So that's what really made you really more invested in what you were listening to, because it took so much just to get the music. And this was the day before you could even download the music or do anything. You just had to take the music, put in your CD player or cassette player. I think, this is kind of show you how washed I am. I don't think I bought my first CD as a CD when I was in college.
Wow.
It was like 1995 when I bought my first CD. And the first CD I bought was, I'm a big, I don't know if y'all familiar with Take Six, but Take Six.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So the first CD I bought was a Take Six CD. And, and I was like, yo, man, this is so dope. Before then, it was just all cassettes my whole life, all the way up to 1995. So, you think, and so, I'm sorry, you said something? But yeah, I was just saying that, that just shows you, they show you how watched I am in terms of how, we used to listen to music and what it took to get it. And now, anything you want to listen to, anything, going back as far as whatever, the 20s all the way up to now. You just type it in, boom, it's right there.
I remember I skipped.
Hold on. I'm sorry, real quick. I'm surprised that was your first group. I thought you was gonna say the Mississippi Mass Choir and the Mighty
Look, they on the playlist too, though.
Alabama boys.
So, all right, I got to add my wife to the stream so she can get the ladies' perspective of this watch thing.
Oh, okay.
Hey.
Hello.
Uh-oh.
Hey, you got to turn your mic on.
Oh, Brian.
Here I go. I'm the technically challenged one of the house.
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna sit back and watch this.
I gotta sit back too. I gotta get the help.
It's Brandy in the house.
Yes. Hello, everyone.
Hey, how you doing, Brandy?
Good.
So, per our conversation yesterday, Brand, when did you realize that you were washed? Because this one is a good perspective here.
When I started watching football and basketball and would be sitting there and they say the kid's age and I'd be like, oh, he's just a baby. And I'm like, wait a minute. I sound like my mom. And so now realizing that I am 20 plus years older than a lot of these kids or these athletes, for me was like, wait a minute. I remember when I was the same age or younger, and now the tables have turned. And so for me, I'm like, I'm old enough to be their parents. And I'm like, I wasn't ready for that. Like that took a blow to my ego that I can be these athletes' mom. And so for me, that was kind of hard and difficult to deal with and suck up. as you know, of what age I was and whatnot.
Well,
You know, that,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, Brian. Yeah, that's a good one though. I thought I was the only one that thought like that. You know, growing up watching basketball, it used to be younger, and then especially around the time, Kobe and McGrady, they were around our age, and
Mhm.
then now, like these kids talk about they were born in 2000, like 2000. No,
Yeah,
when they get drafted, they talk about, yeah, and I'm like, these kids were born after 9/11. Are you kidding me?
right,
What's up with
right.
that? Yeah, that's a trip.
They're
Yeah,
like, they were still making y'all? Like, they were still making
right.
y'all in 2000?
Yeah, that's messed up, yo.
Well,
Hey
I think,
man, one time like back in the early 2000s, I want to say this was like during LeBron's first like run in the league, basically his first time around in Cleveland. And I remember I put up some kind of post talking about, yeah, I'm probably going to run out to the mall, go get me a LeBron team jersey. Well, one of the homeboys chimed in. He's like, hey, man, you might not want to do that because it ain't real. It ain't real cool to have a jersey of a dude that's younger than you on. And I had to really sit back and think about that for a minute. Like, wait a minute, hold up,
Is
for
that
real?
a thing?
Yeah,
I've never heard of that. That's
well,
wow.
it's wild because you sit there and you watch like your athletes, the athletes you follow that are the same age, and you realize they all retired.
Right.
That's the
That's
hard
real.
part. Because it used to be, I'd be like, man, that dude's 26, like I'm 26, and
Right.
in the hypothetical world where I can do anything and nothing can stop me, I could be playing right next to him. Well, now, Tom Brady's considered an old man, and he's
Right.
the same age I am. People shocked he's still able to just walk down the field, and I'm like, man, I don't feel that old, but it is the reality of it. It's that youth obsessed culture. And specifically with sports, man, that's where a lot of that stuff comes out because you're looking at these dudes. It's like, man, this little dude wasn't even born when I was in college, bro. What's going on? Like, he wasn't even born.
Wasn't even born. Yeah,
Um,
that's a trip, man.
so, and Brandy brought it up. It's one of those things where you're looking at these little kids, and it's like these are children. These are children doing children things, and when when these kids misbehave or screw up, you got to keep that in mind that they children. They're not grown. They're not grown men in the sense that we grown. They're kids.
Right.
And so,
The brains aren't even fully developed yet.
well, and that's the wild part. I think we lose track of that. Most of these kids, their brains don't develop until like 20, 24, 26 years old.
Right.
And they still thinking with the teenage brain. And so when we see these athletes out here doing the indiscretions in the prime of their lives, you got to understand that in their mind, they haven't experienced a sneeze that debilitates them. And so it doesn't humble them the right way. When you have that sneeze that debilitates you, it brings life into perspective like that. Like,
Yes, sir.
man, I just sneezed too hard. Do we have a wheelchair in the house? Like, I might need a wheelchair, get a ramp installed because I
Right.
sneezed too hard and I might not be able to move.
man, you give yourself a spinal alignment by sneezing.
Right.
My
Right.
back was acting up until I sneezed, and now I ain't got to go to the chiropractor.
Well, but also going back to the youth obsessed culture, when it comes to being a woman and being washed, we're constantly having to change and try and keep up and whatnot. And one of the comments I heard being said was, I think it was you, Richard, that said, when you're comfortable in your own skin, you're 100% washed. And for me, I know I've always stood out. I've always had my own style of how I dress and whatnot. And so for me, I didn't care. I've never really had that opinion of what anybody thought. So for me to go, you know, and try and keep up, I've never tried to keep up with what modern fashion uh, had to, had in play. I don't wear much makeup, never have, but it's just one of those things where, being youth obsessed, it's a struggle on the female side, because I still wanted to be young because, as Brian said, he doesn't know when he's getting hit on at the gym, and he'll come home and tell me such and such was saying this and this and this and this, and I'm just looking at him, and all I can do is say, "Do you were just being flirted with?" And he's just like, "What?" Yeah, like she was shooting her shot, and so for me, it's just like, wait, my husband's getting hit on. What about me? Like, where do I fit in? Am I too old? Am I at times, But at the same time, I don't go out looking for that. So I probably blow it off just as much, just because I'm not looking for that perception. I'm not out there to impress. Yes, when we go out, I make sure I look good and make sure, we look good together. That's me as the woman making sure we, as a unit, when we move together. But other than that, like, I don't really care, So for me, it's easy to point out when he's being flirted with, but I don't know if I realize when I'm being flirted with, if that makes sense.
So, Brand, I want to ask you real quick, what's one of those things that you see these young girls out here doing where you're like, nah, I'm good. I'm good.
Oh, there's a lot. But I will say the whole waist trainer trying to have an hourglass figure. For me, like, I'm good. I don't want to be constricted in that manner, that I'm trying to have this body that looks like everybody else. I don't want my body to look like everybody else, because, well, then I'm looking like everybody else. I love standing out. I love my shape. And naturally, I have that figure. It may not be as pronounced as with the waist trainer, but I do have that figure. So for me, it was just like, why suffer more to try and enhance something for looks? Like, I value myself a little bit more than to try and look like Kim Kardashian. I'm sorry, I can't stand her. I don't want to look like her, and I'm not doing things to reshift and organize my insides for an image. Like, that's just, yeah, no, not at all. Never ever will you catch me in a waist trainer.
So,
sorry.
my first experience with seeing a waist trainer, y'all gonna laugh. My first experience seeing a waist trainer was in, y'all remember Lethal Weapon 3 when Danny Glover was wearing that girdle?
Oh, good Lord. Yeah, man.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, man.
And at that point, I made a point to say, I'm never doing that. I'm never doing that ever again. I'll never reach that point. And so if my belly is over, if my belly is pronounced, I'm cool with it. But for women have that internal, that I think it's that Instagram pressure that pops up.
Yeah.
Because that's driving a lot of the culture. And specifically, it's the Instagram stuff that pops up where, these fad diets and these teas, where these detox stuff and all the other stuff, where there's so much external pressure that I see a lot of women that, who want to participate and are fighting against that, participating in stuff that's actually destructive. And it's a darker side of this, because I think for men, we can sit around and be like, man, we comfortably washed. I'm cool with that. But there's a social pressure, Randy, if I'm not saying, there's social pressure to try to conform to some of that stuff for women that doesn't exist for men.
Yeah. But at the same time, it is also the society standard. You don't want women to age. And so, yeah, there is that pressure to not look like you're aged. That's why makeup comes into play. That's why, hair color. And yes, I will admit I love coloring my hair, but my hair, I like changing it. So, but it's the one thing that I will also say that's been very uncomfortable for me is finding gray hairs. I will definitely admit to that. Like that is one thing that is probably the one thing I am not comfortable with. Like my hair is turning gray. Like, why is this happening? And one of the first ones I noticed was actually in my eyebrows. And I was like, oh, this we're done. Like
Wow.
There's one sign of being washed, and I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not doing no TikTok arm dances, man. I'm not doing no TikTok cheerleader arm dances, air controller dances. I'm not doing air traffic controller dances. I'm not doing no TikTok, none of that. And I see people our age constantly doing these TikTok challenges. And y'all, I'm gonna just put it out there. It's a bad look if you wash. It's just not the TikTok thing, the TikTok arm dances, and you recording yourself. So there's video documentation of you participating in that. Let that be a young person's sport. You know,
but from a social media perspective, in terms of being washed, man, look, I will never have a TikTok to begin with, let alone TikTok challenges. But then on top of that, so I guess like besides TikTok, the other little the app of the moment is Snapchat. So I have a Snapchat, but man, I'm about as active on Snapchat as my fan is in the wintertime. Like, no, it just don't go. Like, nah, that is me being washed from a social media perspective.
Right. You know what? And I want to go back to something that Brandy said about her perspective with being a woman, and it brought me back. Y'all remember that whole fiasco with Aisha Curry?
Yeah.
When she wasn't getting enough looks. Yeah.
And so it made me think about that because at the time I was one of the ones kind of beating her up a little bit because I was like, you tripping, your husband got his money and here you are talking about, you want more attention. But I didn't, at the time, I didn't think about the societal pressure. So that it's more of, again, she was trying to fight being watched. It wasn't that she didn't appreciate her husband or she wasn't appreciative. She just didn't want to be watched. She didn't want to get to the point where she was being ignored because she was looking at her husband getting all this attention. And like, he's getting all the attention. The ladies DMing him. Nobody's hit me up. What's up with that? And I think she just felt a little left behind. And it wasn't that she really seriously wanted to, step out on her husband, but it's just that societal pressure. And so I thought about that when you said what you said, Brandon. So I just wanted to kind of piggyback on that a little bit.
Yeah. And I would agree with that wholeheartedly. Like her husband, he's on TV constantly, and here she is. Right. She's the chef. She's got her show and things that she's doing, but nobody's acknowledging her. It's not even being fully acknowledged that she's his wife, in conversations. And so, to be noticed, to be seen, like I'm just as much a celebrity as he is. I'm bringing in money too.
Right.
Yeah, it's a societal pressure. And I think, celebrities probably feel that more than the common folk, especially if you're a spouse of a celebrity and you're both famous, you both probably have pressure, especially more on the woman's side.
Yeah, that's real.
And I was thinking along those lines, she's all, like you mentioned, she's a celebrity, she's an actress. She started out as an actress before. And so that's also in industry that's really based on pursuing the spotlight and putting yourself out there. And so that's got to be tough to be the background character or relegated to the background, and now you started out as an actress, and now all of a sudden you're just you just fit into the box of mom. And so I saw that kind of as her way of pushing out of that, breaking out of that box. So it's interesting to watch where it comes. Plus, it's the reality of, I think what happened was, and I don't want to go too far into it, but I think one of the challenges is when you voice, when you're rich and famous, and sometimes even when you're not rich and famous, voicing your personal insecurities makes other people feel uncomfortable.
Okay.
And there's always a backlash against it, And I think what happened was she was showing that she wasn't 100% secure in who she was, and she was showing that vulnerability, and she got destroyed for it. Will Smith and Jada Smith kind of had that same thing happen.
Yeah.
Jada was kind of skeevy with the August thing and being the mom figure and all that. I'm not going into that, but they exposed real insecurities, and they're rich and powerful and beautiful people, and they're kind of world beaters that control the world, but they still struggle with insecurities within their own relationship. And I think people are naturally uncomfortable with that.
Yeah. Even still though, that was rough on my guy Will though. I'm sorry, man. I could, but I because you put yourself in his shoes, you're like, man, I couldn't imagine my wife saying some stuff like that. And I mean, of course, their relationship is different. They're out, in the world's face. But, whoo, that's rough, man. I don't know.
That man's still competing with Pop. I got, be honest with you, I got $20 on Will. Like if they shooting a fair one, I got $20 on Will. But
yeah, me too. Yeah,
that's besides the point. I get what you're saying, where but it was an insecurity within their marriage, and apparently it's an issue that still is not the most comfortable thing for them to discuss. But they had that real conversation in the public eye as opposed to having it between themselves. And people who are grappling with that level of insecurity in their own interpersonal relationships, instead of saying this is something I've experienced, it's their relationship is in trouble. They're falling apart. Will's getting dogged out and all this other stuff. And I don't think that's where it goes with that one. But it was tough watching them put all that stuff out on Front Street. And like I said, I don't think particularly there was enough attention given to or urgency regarding the questionable nature of what Jada was doing, regarding the entire relationship with that guy, with that kid or whatever. But that's neither here nor there. They exposed something that was raw and kind of unresolved in the relationship and brought it to the forefront, and people got uncomfortable. And when people get uncomfortable, instead of just saying, that makes me uncomfortable because you're striking close to the bone, that's where all the judging and stuff starts falling out of it.
Yeah, true.
But that's part of growing old together, and that goes into growing washed together.
I'm not growing washed with you. I'm not washed yet.
I will do the heavy lifting of being washed in the relationship.
Right.
So we talked about politics. We talked about fashion. We talked about music. We talked about just general age stuff. We could get into the political aspects of being washed, but at this point, what I guess for people that are watching, that are approaching this and wrestling with the idea of getting older, and I'm sitting there talking like we 80 years old. I'm talking about like growing from, 20s, 30s to middle age kind of. What advice would y'all throw out there for people so that they don't struggle as hard with it? They don't have this weird identity crisis, because I think that's what we see a lot of, and that's kind of what we're hacking away at. What's your advice for people to adjust to this, getting older?
I would say for me, the leap from 30 to 40, uh, that was a tough one. And the one thing I learned is I cannot get back what I've already lost. The time, the money, the investments, the relationships, the any of that stuff. Accepting that one, that day I will never see tomorrow or yesterday again. And so dealing with and accepting that, okay, today's my new day to make it better, and knowing that each day I can only make myself better, do the things that I can to make sure I'm here for my husband, my kids, you know, that's all I can do, and be a better me. Um, knowing that was a big thing. Like, I'm not here to impress upon anybody else what I think or what I feel. My values are for me and to make my life livable. Um,
Mm.
and I think that's the biggest thing is you have to live your life so you feel like you're living, not who's looking at me, who's watching. I don't care. I really don't. Um, and that was a big thing to struggle with, going from, one of the topics you guys had before I jumped on was music, and I heard Brian mention TLC and whatnot and how they dress, but realizing I'm not one. I can't dress like that no more. It is definitely not the fashion, but knowing that also I don't have to look like the fashion. Having my own sense of identity is who makes me me, and there's nobody to be me better than me. So that's the one thing, if I could tell anybody, is there's nobody who can be you better than you.
Okay.
Yeah, and something I just thought about. If you are wearing something and it looks like cosplay, then you're probably washed. Okay, you know, I mean, because some people they can put on something, especially the younger kids. Okay, it's fine. You do it, and it looks like it looks like you going to a party that's for that particular thing. You may want to look at that a certain way. But the other thing I was going to say, what I would say to the younger generation is, don't waste time. Make it whatever you want to do. And I know this has probably been said a million times, but whatever you want to do it. Like, go ahead and do it. Because I still, it seemed like it was just yesterday. I was in college talking to and this is a weird little sidebar, but I remember having this conversation with my cousin. We were at Jackson State University. Both of us were, I think we were 20 years old at the time, and we were talking about some things we wanted to do in the future, and we were talking about being 40 and how at the time 40 just seemed like so far away.
Mhm.
You talking about 1998, 1999, right? And 40 years old seems so far away. It seemed like such an old thing, and here it is now. We're both 44, just like that. And at the time, we were just talking about some of the things we want to do by the time we're 30, and we were just talking about future plans. And so my advice to the younger generation is, whatever you want to do, go out there and do it. Because once it's too late, then you will have the rest of your life just regret. And you don't want to have that regret. And that's one of the reasons even I taught school for 7 years, but I really wanted to, get into my own business and do, web design, all that. That was one of the reasons I stepped out to do it, because I was looking at some of the other people who were teaching for 20 years, and they were just complaining about their jobs. And I said, you know what? Do I want to be 20 years in this thing complaining about my life? And I was just looking at, using them as an example. And, I heard this one lady, she said, well, at this point, it's too late for me. And I said, I do not want that.
Right.
And so that was the thing, and Brian, and I should have said this, in our past podcast, because you asked me, what was one of the things that, made me snap into, want to switch and pivot to something else. That was the main event too. When I saw that lady, she had been teaching for like 20 some years at the point, but she was just complaining. She was in the teacher lounge. She just sitting there just complaining to anybody that want to listen.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? I don't want that for my life. So that was another pivotal moment for me to say, you know what? Let me do this. And so I would advise younger people to, go ahead and go out there and do the things you want to do, because at the end of the day, you don't want to be in a position where you just regretting your life. That's just a weird way to live.
Right.
So now you just at this job just to survive because you want to pay bills. Now you have to pay bills, but I think y'all get what I'm saying.
Right.
But try to, there's nothing wrong with stepping out there, like this old saying, go out on a limb because that's where the fruit is. So I believe that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. What you got, Rich? What advice you gonna throw out there to the world, man?
Man, all I got is this. Like, okay, between the ages of 30 and 40, or even if you want to stretch it a little bit, 30 to 45, that's when the average individual makes the most major moves in their lives. Like, and whatever that looks like, whether that's buying the house,
Right.
getting the family going, starting their business, whatever the case may be, that little bracket of 30 to 45 is when the average individual makes the biggest moves of their human lives. But here's the thing. When you make some of those moves, some of them have to come at a cost. That cost is letting go some of that youth. Like, if you ain't gonna be able to, there goes
Dale in the building.
Dale Guys. There goes the neighborhood.
Hey, can you hear me?
Speaking of washed,
Can you hear me?
Man, that diet is washed. That diet is washed.
Hey, can you all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I totally spaced it off. I wanted to come on early because I knew Les was going to be on, and so he's like an old washing machine. No, he still runs, and then Richard out there trying to lift all the weight in the world, knowing he ain't got no joints left in his knees.
Yeah.
What's up, guys? Hey B, how
Couple
long
dropping
you
bombs.
going, Brian?
Uh-huh.
How long you going, Brian? How long is the podcast?
Till it ends. I mean, we're just sitting there talking about, right now it's more or less we've had the conversation and just talking about realizing when you were washed, talking about getting injured while sneezing and how that's a humbling experience. And more or less just talking about the concept of throwing your arms around it and embracing it. And so Rich was kind of giving some, basically for people that are crossing that threshold from young and viable to completely washed, talking about how to ease that transition on. But we're going till we just can't go. I mean,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's good. I mean, I'm looking at Richard, and he looks like one of those people. He needs one of those voice. What's the things that disguise your voice so that you can't hear him? Because he's all I can see is his shadow.
All right.
He's talking about being washed and trying to hide his face and everything. Like, just be what you are, man. We know you're washed. Just show it. Let's see you clearly.
Embrace it.
Hey, I am in the comfortable low lighting of my living room. I'm all good.
but no, and blurting while mom, that's your wife, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
Brandy.
Yeah.
So she could talk more about how washed you are than you could probably talk about how washed you are yourself, B.
she already aired me out the fact that I can't pick up on when these little young tenderonis is trying to hit on me at the gym. So
Never.
So, I'm just sitting there like, girl, I'm old enough to be your uncle. Go on somewhere.
Well, see, but that's not the real problem with being washed. The real problem with being washed is what I get. Like the last time, this is honest God's truth. The last time I got hit on, I was in Kansas City, man. It was early. I was up there for work, and I had a speaking engagement, and I forgot my belt back in Omaha. So it's like 5 a.m. It was before the pandemic. 5 a.m. I go to Walmart, right? And I got my suit on without my belt. So I'm walking through, I'm hustling through. This old lady pulls up in one of the hover round carts
Oh,
with no
Lord.
teeth. And she was like, "Ooh, you looking handsome today." That's how you know
Oh,
you're washed. When the last time you get hit on is by an old lady in a hover round at Walmart.
oh, Lord.
So at that point, I was just like, you know what? I'm glad I'm married. I got her locked in. We're just gonna accept any compliment I can get from my own wife, because I ain't
Yeah,
getting nowhere else.
you get the trophy for that one, Dale. That's good.
Yeah, you went the internet today. Yeah, man.
I'll tell you though, from a wash perspective. So this is how you know you're washed too. When the barometric pressure of the weather changes and it goes from warm to cooler, like this morning, you can't hardly walk. That was me going to the gym this morning.
Oh yeah,
I got those old man wash knees.
I've had that wake up call where I'm like, ooh, my knee feels tight. There must be a storm coming in. I don't know why, but that's like your sign, and it happens. If the first time happens, so you're not really correlating the two things, but then you're like, oh, this means my body is in tune with the earth, and it means I've been on earth too long. So
I came in right when Richard was saying something profound, talking about mid career. I was sorry to interrupt you, but I thought you were hitting some spot on stuff.
Well, okay. So now to kind of pick up from where I left off, yeah, like when you reach that point between the ages of 30 and 45, yeah, those are when you make your major life moves. But all that comes at a cost. Like, yeah, you're gonna gain, but you have to let go as well. You gotta let go some of that stuff from your youth. Otherwise, you're not gonna make those moves forward.
okay,
Real talk.
that's real. That's the gain and stuff, and letting go. I think that's where my point would be. Talking to people that are a little bit younger than me, is like, that mourning process is natural. Mourning the passing of your youth and transitioning on to adulthood, that's a natural thing, and it doesn't make you it doesn't make you an outlier. It doesn't make you strange or anything. It's perfectly natural to say, a lot of the things of being young and trendy and following all the stuff, it's okay to let that go and move on to the next phase in life. And it's also okay to say, this is what I like, this is how I dress, these are the things I listen to, and this is what I consume, and I'm comfortable with that. And I don't really feel the need to be driven by pop culture to this or that. At some point in time, and the earlier you figure out what you like, the easier that transition is. But when you're this kind of piece of clay and you're just kind of moldable, and you just are allowing yourself to be molded by anything in pop culture, anything that's fashionable that comes out, you're first one in the store to get it. That's fleeting, and that can really set you up as you get older, because like Les said, you don't want to be that person who looks like they cosplaying, man. You don't want to look. You don't want to be 35 looking like you cosplaying as an 8th grader,
Right.
Unless it's Halloween or something. You don't want to be walking out in the club, because the old man in the club is, I think that's the trope that kind of gets thrown out associated with that, but it's a very true thing. Being the old guy in the club, the guy who's too old to be wearing what he's wearing at the bar, is not the move. It's not where you want to be. And I think a lot of that comes from, not really having a firm idea of who you are, who your identity is, and what you like and what you dislike and what you're comfortable in, what you're not comfortable in. I think that can lead to a lot of confusion as you move from being young and viable, where all the media is targeted towards you, to being middle-aged and stuff, where, you know, basically the media machine kind of thinks that you drop off the face of the earth, even though you're the part of one of the biggest consumer groups there is. I do think that having that firm grasp of who you are and who your identity is and being comfortable in that will help you make that transition a lot faster. And it'll be a little bit easier. So, Dale, I know you're jumping on a little bit later on, but what would your advice be to somebody that's looking at that threshold of being about to cross over into being completely washed? How to ease that transition for them?
It's hard. It's really hard. Like, so especially for athletes or people that have an athletic background and used to competing all the time, you know, so for me it's about two things. There's a yin and yang to it, and I think you guys have been touching on it. The yin side is that you're having to give up the viability of youth and the things that you do of youth, the free spirit, the energy. There's something in the Bible, unless if you want to get on the organ while I say this scripture, feel free.
Uh-oh.
So in the Bible it says the glory of the young man is their strength, and the glory of the old man is their gray hair, meaning, you know, wisdom versus, you know, that strength, that sense of invincibility. And, you know, when you start getting washed, you know, you're really kind of transitioning from that. The problem that I found is that a lot of cats don't realize they lost their strength and they never got wisdom. So now they're just out there and we look at them like a bunch of damn fools. We're like, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to be, man? You're like gangbangers who are banging in their 40s. I'm like, bro, you didn't learn anything from that? You know, what's the legacy you're trying to live? So for me as a former athlete, it was kind of done for me because I started getting injured a lot. So, you know, I played my 4 years of college basketball, came out about a good 2 to 3 years after college. You know, I was playing street ball and I was killing everybody because I had my whole game had finally came together. And then it was like injury back to back to back. It was like Achilles tendon tear, herniated disc, messed up my back, other things. And so now I can't really play like that. So when I started coming back, you know, you're on the court with these folks that you used to be able to dominate, and they're talking stuff, and you literally cannot do anything about it. And that's the worst feeling in the world. And you know, the young guys, you can't tell them, well, I used to be able to do this to you because they're like, oh, you know, blah blah blah. You ain't gonna do it now. You know, so it's like you have to give up what you used to be in favor of, like you said, be focusing on what you should be and can be as a mature adult. And I'm gonna tell you some, and I don't want me to bring the mood down, but you know, I think I'm the oldest one on this panel at 48 right now. So for me, a lot of it has been the questioning of my mortality and really considering what that means at this phase. And really, because I think when you get to that, that's where you really know that a lot of things you're washed in and you need to pivot. So for me, okay, first of all, young, I got COVID twice. So I got it July of 2020, got vaccinated in April, got it literally year to date. They said I'm an anomaly. So now I'm sitting here thinking, man, this virus is killing and harming a lot of folks. And I know some of you had some significant health issues that you had to come back from too. You probably vibe with me on this. And so you start thinking, okay, you start reflecting, at this point in my life, have I done the things necessary to do what I need to do and be who I need to be? Okay. Then also becoming a grandfather was a big deal to me too. And I didn't realize how big a deal it was because it was so different to kind of see, like, in the first time in my mind, I was like, you know, I have a legacy, you know, beyond, you know, myself now. So with my grandbaby, and it's like now that even flipped my mind a little bit more. And then I started seeing other cats, you know, my age, you know, because I follow a lot of the bodybuilding sites. You know, one of the main guys that was on there, everybody loved this guy. I don't know if you all might recognize the name John Meadows. He used to come to Omaha seminars and things like that. 49 years old, died in his sleep, you know. And I started thinking, man, I'm 48. you know. And so now it's like I'm at the phase of my life where it's at that transition point where I'm like, I'm not gonna. If I live to 96, then I'm lucky. But if I don't live to 96, that means I've already lived over half of my life. So for me, it's that soul searching of saying, you know, what do I need to do to make sure that my family's taken care of and that
Right.
I'm in the best possible position to live the rest of my life the way that needs to be done. And that's not the stuff you think about when you're a kid, when you're young dude. When you're young dude, you think the future is always far, far away from you, and you can just live in the moment. So I think the sign of switching from being washed to learning maturity is when you
Mhm.
recognize that you can no longer just live in the moment and expect things to be okay, and that you got to start leaving a legacy for the people you care about. So that's kind of, my take on it.
It's
Hey,
good.
that's a good one. That living in the moment, we see it a lot with people our age, and maybe it might be we talked about because I talked about earlier when you rebelled against that concept of being washed. A lot of people, that's the thing they rebel against. They start living more in the moment, making more questionable decisions in the heat of the moment, as opposed to sitting down and really planning out how this impacts the people that they're supposed to be caring for. So, man, that's powerful.
Yes, sir.
Um, we talked about, I talked about going back trying to play flag football and not being able to walk when I got back to the house. Brandy was there for that one. You know, there to wag her finger, and that was my impetus to get back in the gym and start taking it seriously because I couldn't bounce back the way I did, the way I used to be able to bounce back. And that kind of goes into it where you're like, my body isn't able to do the things that I want it to do anymore, and that's okay. I got to figure out what my life looks like now with the current limitations I'm living under. So, wow.
Yeah, it's something, y'all just made me think of something. What Dale, when he was just talking about, life and, how you look at where you are and how much time you have left. Um, that hit home with me in several ways. Some of you know that I've had uh, open heart surgery and all that type of stuff, and that really changed everything in my life. You know, because before then, just the way I moved, and even stuff like the way I used to eat,
Uh-huh.
because it's a trip now because my oldest son, he's 17, right?
Uh-huh.
And so now when my wife, let's say she prepares a meal, it used to be I would have the big plate. He has the big plate now, and when she makes my plate, it's this smaller plate with smaller portions of food. And then I look at his plate, I'm like, yo, that's how I used to roll, man. What's up with that? And and so that's another thing that another sign of being washed for me.
Uh-huh.
It's that little plate that I that I have for dinner.
To build
So,
to build on
but
that, pre-planning
yeah,
your meals because the acid reflux is a great equalizer. When you sit there you're like, man, I ain't gonna be able to eat this because
right,
at
right,
midnight I'm gonna be going look and jumping up out of bed. That acid
yeah,
reflux
man,
will humble you quick.
it's real, dog.
I got one for you. Acid, or you're washed when you go to bed at 8:30.
Ooh, and are
Eight
cool
thirty,
with
man.
that.
Oh,
Like I was sitting thinking. So we go to bed at 8:30, probably fall asleep around 9ish. If I'm pushing it, maybe 9:30. Get up at 4:30 to go to the gym, right? And
Uh-huh.
I was thinking, like, you also know you're washed. So when me and my guys get out, we stay out till 9 o'clock max, because at that point we're so tired. Like the last time we
right.
found ourselves trying to go out to a bar, we were all gung ho, right? We go out to dinner, man. We're gonna go out to this buffet. We're gonna hit this buffet, then we're gonna go hang out at the bar for a while. Man, we hit the buffet at 6. We eat all the food. you know, that blood glucose starts, you know, factor, blood sugar starts kicking in. And we get out the car like, where you want to go? Everybody's like, hey man, I think I'm just gonna go home right now at 7:30. That's when you know. And now, but I think back to the time, you know, when we were young, and you would go out till 1, 2, 3 in the morning like it's nothing. You know, come home, get up, and do it again 2 days in a row. And I'm looking at now, like,
Yeah.
how in the world, how is that humanly possible? Because right now, if I go out, trust me, if I go out till 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm not going anywhere for the next 3 months.
Right.
We went down to Kansas City. We met my sister-in-law and her boyfriend. We was out, and we sitting there talking, and it's like around 8:30. We're outside at this place, and I'm like, so what y'all about to get into? They're like, man, we about to go home and go to bed. Now these people are younger than us, and I'm like, you know what? That sounds like a fantastic idea. Let's just all go home and go to bed. That was washed because we had spent all day out running around at basketball tournaments and everything. We was tired, and it was time to go home. And you know, for a younger person, like I'm thinking when we were 24, what you about to get into normally meant what you about to get into. Man, we about to go to this spot, this spot, this spot, this spot. Now, what you about to get into means I'm about to go and get into bed. That's what I'm getting into.
Right.
Hey man, that acid reflux though, just to jump back on that for a minute.
Yeah.
That acid reflux ain't no joke because now, like 15 years ago, yeah, I could probably do 4 slices of Casey's pizza at 11:30 at night and then go straight to bed like it ain't nothing. Now, if I'm gonna try something like that, 4 slices of pizza, Casey's pizza at 11:30 at night, then go to bed. Come about 1:30 in the morning, I'm gonna get woken up. I got like 10 seconds to make it to the bathroom.
you in a cage match with your esophagus at that point in time.
Hey, I got one for you guys that I just thought about. So I started to think I was washed, but I was holding on. The first time somebody called me sir.
Oh,
I did not know how to take that. Oh, you know, I'm doing my thing, whatever. I'm like, yo, whoop de woo. You know, I don't know if it was a store or was work something. I'm doing my thing, talking to this public. He's like, oh, you know, thank you, sir. I appreciate you, sir. I'm like, man, who is this sir of which thou speaketh?
I have no idea who this sir is.
I was looking around. You know, is my daddy? Is my daddy with me somewhere? It's like me. And then you know, when they no longer ask you for ID anywhere ever.
Ooh.
You know, then you're like, okay. And I had to hold on. I knew I was washed when my wife finally came to me and said, she said, honey, you need to let the hair go.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
Man, so we have the guys have this widow peak, right? So we get the widow peak. And so mine kept just creeping further and further back. So I kept trying to brush my hair forward. And she was just like, one day she said, it's time, Dell. It's time. And I was like, woo.
Dr. LeBron guns.
That's that old Yeller moment. You got to take old Yeller in the back, put old Yeller down. It's like the time has come. Sorry, my friend, we've gone as far as we can take you. I've done that with contacts. Like I'll try to put on my contacts, but midway through having my contacts, I'm like, I just wish I had my glasses on. And you know, the sir moment happened to me early because I worked in group homes, and so the kids would be yes sir, no sir, and that didn't bother me as much. But then when I started running my own group home, it was, yeah, hey Mr. Brian, hi Mr. Brian. That was too much. That almost broke me. Like, call me Brian. Call me Brian. Stop with this Mr. Brian stuff, man. I'm not that old.
So I'll go from the lady's perspective on the sir and Mr. and Miss and ma'am. And for me, I would have to say it was when I actually told my kids' friends to call me Miss Brandy. And that's when I knew I was at that moment. Like, I've always taught my kids to be respectful, but some of the kids from down the street were over and they asked me what my name was, and I said it's Miss Brandy, and I'm like, oh my God, I just introduced myself as Miss. And that for me was just kind of like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm at that age where you're going to respect me, and I'm gonna teach you how you're going to respect me, but I just referred to myself as Miss. And so I also have a thing with when my kids are present and I'm talking to their teachers or whatnot, I call them Miss such and such or Mr. such and such, just because they know that that's how they're supposed to refer to them as. Like, you're not going to call an adult by their first name or, you know, whatever their name is with when I'm present. Now, if they say you can call them whoever when I'm not around, that's fine. But I expect you to treat them with respect when I'm
Right.
present. And I expect the same from your friends as well. So
for y'all, I'm gonna ask y'all this. When's the first time you know, you with your kids, like, yeah, I know Rich, you know, with your kids specifically, when's the first time you caught yourself saying, what is this noise that you're listening to? Like, where it started sounding like noise and you got to say, what is this? Why are you listening to it? And why won't you turn it off?
Well, that happened with my youngest son. He's, I mean, to be honest, some of the stuff he's listening to, I don't even know what's going on. Like, you know, I mean, he's 12, and I call myself, I'm a music guy, and I'm pretty knowledgeable about hip hop. But some of the stuff he's listening to, I'm like, I'm just lost. I don't know
Right.
what's going on. My oldest son, he kind of identifies with you a little bit, Brian, because he's into the anime stuff,
Uh-huh.
the anime music. And see, before you said something to me, I didn't even know that was a thing. And so my son, he would come to my room, he'd come to my office and he said, hey, I want you to hear this from, Cowboy Bebop song. And I'm like, number one, what's Cowboy Bebop? And then are they putting out soundtracks? And then I'm listening to it, and it sounds pretty decent. It's like jazzy and stuff.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, going back to my youngest son, he's the one that I'm trying to keep my eye on because I don't know what's going on in his world. I'm serious. Like the stuff he's listening to, and I guess it goes back to maybe this is how it was back when I was young. Because even when your parents, they would try to watch over you a little bit and make sure you're not going the wrong path. But a part of it is they don't even know what to look for. Even if they would hear what you're hearing, what goes through their brain, it's like, yo, I don't even know how to register this. I'm just lost. And that's how it is with me now. And I didn't think I would be at this point, but I'm here. And he's going over me and my wife's head. He's probably getting away with a lot of stuff because we just don't know what's going on. We don't know what's out here. So yeah.
For me, it was when my youngest son, he started watching all these YouTube Minecraft videos and hours in games.
That's another one.
And I'm like, y'all are sitting here watching people play these games for 2 hours versus playing the game yourself. Like, what's going on here? And then when I started hearing these kids on YouTube were making millions of dollars from this, I'm like, what? In terms of music, it's always hard. Like we always joke in the Facebook group, the other Facebook group about, old men yelling at the clouds and all. But let's be honest. I don't think it's really being so washed when you look back and you look and say, no, music today really is trash. Like, it's not like there is some empiricism to that. So like I'm a huge Michael Jackson and Prince fan. And so my daughters came over the other day with daughter brought the grandbaby, and we're all sitting and we watched like the full Michael Jackson concert in Munich, Germany. there was a YouTube video where it showed the evolution of Michael Jackson's dancing from 1968. And when you go back and you listen to that, you're like, that objectively, I think anybody would say that from a content creation of music standpoint, that era was significantly better. Like 60, I would say from like the 60s to probably the early 90s.
Uh-huh.
You got a 30-year run where there was a lot of innovation and people still played stuff. Like you go back and you listen to the music where they had a whole freaking horn section in the 70s. Like they had their platform shoes on, their bell bottoms and suits, and they were all, playing. Now you listen to, what a lot of our kids are listening to. Like they got one bass line, one snare drum, and a bunch of dudes mumbling over a track, and they're
Yeah.
all singing that stuff. And I'm like, I give up.
Or they've sampled what we've listened to. And that's the other thing. It's either they're sampling what we're listening to for the the music, or like you said, it's got minimal music creativity.
Well,
Go say it, Brandy. Substance.
Right.
Right.
Fortunately, my oldest, she has kind of my music taste. I made the mistake of introducing her to the Gorillas, and she has the whole catalog of Gorillas music memorized. She can hear a string section or an intro for 5 seconds and identify exactly what song it is, and she knows the exact lyrics to it. And so it's easy to introduce new stuff to her. My son, on the other hand, he's into little this and little that, and
What did he call himself the other day? A chopper?
Yeah, little chopper or some others like. And
both like a who?
It was like who? And my son's always kind of done his own thing where he's rhyming to himself. He did it when he was little, like when he was 3 years old. We gave him a microphone, and that boy did a whole song about strawberries, and he's rapping to himself about strawberries. But he'll be in the bathroom and he'll call himself little chopper or something, and he'll just be going on. He sounds just like all these other little dudes, and it's just like, I wish I could just take you and pull you aside and sit you down in 1996 and let you absorb some of that, or take you to 1986 and let you absorb some of that, as opposed to absorbing what you're currently absorbing, where I think a lot of it has to do with how homogenized it is, how commercial it is. It's almost like we're seeing the McDonald'sification of popular Black music, where it's all templated out and it has to have a certain sound, it has to have a certain flavor to it in order to even be considered for streaming services now. And so I wish I could transfer the kids to that.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm glad you said that, Brian, because that's real too. Because even certain songs are almost scientifically structured to get more replays. So that's why you have so many songs that come out now that are only, I don't know, 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes at the most. Like Old Town Road was a big example of that. It was actually made so that it would make you want it more. So it wasn't a full, what you would call a full-length song. If you look at it, Old Town Road, it's like 2 minutes, 30, 40 seconds. And the way the hook is, it gets you literally hooked so that once you hear it, you want to, replay it again.
Right.
They didn't make that song. I guess if they made that song 4 minutes and 30 minutes, 30 seconds like a normal song, it wouldn't have gotten as many streams. But a lot of these songs, you look at them, 2 minutes and 30 seconds. It's all about replay value so that you can get the streaming numbers up. So
Right.
That's a real thing.
And then get a McDonald's meal named after you on top of that.
Man.
That's money right there. That's money.
But that's so to me it's like, we're kind of washed because like I heard somebody say that. I mean, if you could still have hair, they said you could tell when a person's best year of their life was because they still have that same haircut. So like if somebody still has a shag and a jerry curl, that the 80s in high school was the best part of their life, right? But for some of it, I mean, I think that kind of goes back to what we're talking about, being able to really look back at your life. Like, to me, when I say music was objectively better when I came up, it wasn't because I'm an old dude just trying to point back to it and saying I'm just a wash guy and I just the music. No, I'm saying, you just look and you listen. And anybody who appreciates music can look and say hip hop in the late 80s and early 90s was significantly better than what it is now. Like if you look at from the production quality to the lyricism, all of those other things. And I don't think that's a sign of being washed. I mean, I think it's a sign of maturity because we're able to say, okay, if somebody came out with an equivalent of that style of music today, I would be like, that's dope. Like there's some songs that I've heard
Right.
today, and even some of the songs of the people we laugh about that I listen to today, and I'm like, I like that. I play that when I live, or I play that. But
Mhm.
it's hard to find like whole catalogs or whole multiple artists out at the same time that you can say, okay, here's four MCs that came out this year that really have high quality production content, high quality, lyrics, and there's something that you will want to listen to repeatedly. Did you all get a chance to watch that Netflix series on music? And one of them was on Akon and how they were talking about how Akon wrecked music with auto tune.
I haven't seen
You,
that one yet.
you gotta check that out. It's great, and Akon did a phenomenal job on that episode.
Well,
But that
what's this called again?
it's I can't remember the name of it. I find it and post it in the group. But
Okay.
me and my wife watched it, and he had like one of his idols came up to him on a plane one time, and he was so excited to go on a tour. He said, and the dude came up to him, and while they were on the plane, he said, "Yo, dude, you realize you wreck music, right?" Because that auto tune
Uh-huh.
came out. And what's so funny is my son produces now, and he's been like selling little beats, and he produces for his friends, and he cannot sing at all. Hopefully, he's not watching this, but he can't. But you throw him on that auto tune, laid over some beats, and so it's allowed people not to have the same skill set when they approach the mic, too.
Right.
From an R&B standpoint, because they just run it filtered through that program. Now anybody can be a singer, and I think that's what makes it different.
Now this conversation right here kind of takes me back to an old name. Now we're all about the same age, so when I throw this name out there, all y'all should know who this is. But Rapping Duke, y'all remember Daha or whatever that song was? Well, he wasn't even really saying anything. He was just doing a bunch of gibberish over a simple beat. Now this
Uh-huh.
was like 84, 85, something like that. That was like the predecessor for this stuff today. Because I'm like, I don't even know how this dude got airplay. But back in the day, he had a run for a minute. Rapping
Right.
Dude.
Well, here's the thing though, when you talk to younger folks and they identify who's dope, like who's a dope MC, it's still similar to what we had. They're just not recognizing the fact that they're latching on to, oh, this person actually sounds a little bit different, or they actually put time into their lyrics or time into the musicianship part of it. When they start ranking who is actually technically good. Weird. I'm in a group called Audio Blerds, and it's a lot of younger folks. And when they start talking about like this is their favorite rapper, like I think when they throw that around is like G Herbo or whoever, they talk about his lyrics sound different, or he sounds different than other people on this track, or sometimes he falls into what everybody else is doing. But so they kind of use some of the similar things. I just don't know if they're quite connecting the fact that I think what we're saying is the barrier to entry is lower. You don't have to have like your pen game doesn't have to be incredible to be an MC. You as a producer, you don't have to have mastery over the tools you don't have to be a DJ. You don't have to have mastery over the tools to make electronic beats, or you don't even have to have any ability to play an instrument nowadays. I mean, a lot of even rock, if you go to rock now, and if you master, what is it? Les, you can help me out with this. If you master, trying to remember the chords, you can play almost any rock song ever made. There's 3 chords that you can master. Now it's all they master is those 3 chords and just play them in different orders. And so now you got songs. So even rock and other forms of music, the bar has lowered. And to be quite honest with you, we're all black here. We all black here. Here's the thing. Pop music nowadays is just lifted the template from R&B, New Jack Swing of the 90s, which was what what was it? It was called, New Jack Swing was considered New York or Harlem's version of go-go music.
Right.
So the barrier to entry has been lowered across all genres. Country has been lowered, pop has been lowered, rock has been lowered, hip hop has been lowered. And so now anybody can jump into the game, whether you can sing or not, whether you can play an instrument or not.
Think about it this way. So Les likes to play organs for the church, right? Like, as long as that check clears, Les is there playing that organ.
Let's go. But in all seriousness, think about it this way. Think about like the absolute innovation, creativity, spur of the moment that it takes to play a church organ or do some of the things that came out of the black church, right? Like some of the music and whatever. That kind of creativity, that spontaneity that hit the culture. We hit our culture with blues, jazz, rock, rap, R&B, all of those things. And I think the reason that a lot of us older folks complain about it is not because it's nowadays it's different. I'm not even going to say it's better. I'm going to say it's different in the sense that everything has been simplified and everything's been democratized, right?
Right.
So like the barrier to entry, like you said, is so much lower, which allows so many more things to get in there. And then corporations can cherry pick the absolute minimalist thing that they feel will make the most return on investment.
Right.
Like that whole, like when Les gets into the church and plays an organ, right? I'm pretty sure coming from the black church experience, like there's creativity applied. He knows when to hit a note. If the pastor sweats this way, he's going to hit this note. The pastor preaches this, says this how he's going to hit this note, and then he's going to play it. Like that kind of creativity was in the midst when you saw the evolution of kind of like some of our core stuff, like R&B, hip hop. Let's just stick with modern genres, R&B and hip hop. 60s up through 90s. 70s up through 90s for hip hop, right? And you go back and you listen to it. So old cats like me are simply saying we lost that spontaneity, that black creativity, that innovation, and it was stripped down for democratization and simplification, primarily to support corporate interests. But it does help more artists get in there because now cats can make a killing on YouTube without going through the industry. But I think overall the quality suffered, and the kids will just look at us and be like, man, you're just an old guy yelling at the sky. And I'm like, no, you don't have to like the old music. You don't have to like Prince, but go back and listen to it, and kind of see what he was doing, when he was doing it, and how he was doing it, and realize that there's absolutely nothing even close to that today.
Right.
Well, and it's something we had talked about earlier. It's when there's an entire industry on YouTube right now where it's kids reacting to old music, which is old 1980s, 1990s and stuff, and even reacting to old movies and television shows. And realistically, when you listen to the way they react to it, they're like, dude, it sounds different. Everybody has their own style. The quality is higher. It's just different. So once they are exposed to it, if they're being honest, they can even tell that there's a difference between what's being produced now and what's being and what was created back then. And so it's just getting people to be honest about it and understand that it's not an attack when you say, listen, man, it ain't like it used to be. You're never going to have another emergence of a Tupac, or you're never going to have another emergence of a Run DMC, or, where it's something that's so different that captures the imagination. When hip hop first came out, when it first dropped nationally, it captured the imagination of everybody because it sounded so different from everything else that was being created. And it's hard, if people are being honest, if the young folks are being honest, we know that those are the most popular popping channels on YouTube, period. A reaction channel is a license to print money. if you have one that people are watching. From an AdSense standpoint. Now, it may not be the easiest to monetize, but some of them are launching stuff on Patreon where they can do reaction videos on request. You know, one of them I follow, he charges $75 per reaction. He's making money doing it. You know, he's like, hey, if you want me to listen, you know, reactions, if you got your own music you want me to listen to, it's this much. If you have somebody else's reaction, it's $75. Request on my Patreon. He has a business model behind it. But when you listen to him react to it, he's like, man, it's just different. I can't put my finger on it. It's just different. It's not like everybody sounds different. Everybody sounds different. And so if the kids are being if the younger folks are being realistic, they know that there's a difference. I think a lot of times they can't conceptualize what that difference is because they have a bias about their, might be a recency bias or whatever, where they have to fight their own bias to realize that it is a different time and music does sound different now than it did then.
All right, y'all. I gotta head out. We do our Saturday barbecue, new barbecue joint every Saturday. Me and my son started doing it. I think we have 5 in Omaha.
That's what's up.
Far, and we rank them.
Okay.
We rank them out. Hey, for my Omaha folks, Jim's Rib Haven for me was the top. Like, it's hard to find a place with good beef ribs.
Yeah.
And so I went and I got it, and I was surprised. I'm like, they were killing it because I grew up from around the street from Jim's, and I didn't even know they were still putting out food like that anymore. So we're gonna hit that up, man. But it was good to catch up, man. Next time we do it, I'm gonna try to get on early.
Oh yeah, that's
good to have you on, man.
Man, nice to have you on. I think we're probably gonna do the Batman slander one that's coming up. You're gonna want to be in on that one.
but for that, dude, this season of Titans, if you haven't started it yet, is dope. I mean, it's okay. It's the Red Hood one, and I'm really surprised. I'm up on the 3rd episode, and the first 2 seasons of it were okay, but this one I think they really try to pull a couple things together, and it's going to be interesting. And Batman does something on there that I finally respect.
Okay.
So when you get a chance to watch it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But is
that on HBO?
It's on HBO Max. When I get on the Batman slander, I'm bringing all the heat. I'm bringing all the heat. And because you know how I feel about all Batmans, but Christopher Nolan's Batman.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Real quick, Dale.
What's up?
What If? Have you been watching that one?
No, I haven't got around to that one yet.
The one with the one they just dropped this week, the one with Chadwick, was really, really good. It was like one of his last ones. He put a lot of energy into it. I enjoyed it. I'm gonna make Brandy watch it.
Yeah, I get drug into a lot of the comic book stuff. I don't always understand it, but usually get sucked in.
I'm gonna leave you guys on this because I'm gonna leave you guys with this one more thing to know you're washed. When all of the actors that you grew up idolizing and watching start dying, you're washed. Like, because y'all don't know how hard it hit me when Michael Jackson and Prince died.
Wow.
That broke me down. Like, I was like, wow, because it's like they're so embedded in like your essential years of your life. And you think they're all gonna be there, and then they're gone. And that's different than, like, let's say a Tupac who was killed or other folks where it feels sad and people feel it, but it's kind of like boom, and then you kind of know you're washed because then nobody's going to be like them again. And you realize that, and that's the thing about death and why I've been contemplating mortality. And I don't like to leave on a bad, sad note, but I'm sitting here like thinking every day, like, when you die, that's the end of your production in this plane of humanity, right? And so the people that are left behind get to see no more of you. So what are you gonna leave so that at least you will have done something positive for your community, your family, or yourself. And I think when you start thinking that, you, I don't want to call it washed in the sense of that, but I think it's that yin yang that I said. It's that pivot point from immaturity, young youth, strength to old man wisdom. All right, y'all, I'm out of here.
All right, now.
Right.
All
Thanks,
right,
Doc.
man. Good stuff. Good stuff, Doc.
So, all right. So we were talking about realizing that you've kind of crossed that threshold and moving on and really embracing the fact that you aren't trying to keep up with the young folks anymore. And it's, I think we talk about how hip hop is a young man's game. I don't necessarily agree with it. I don't think pop culture specifically is a young man's sport. I just think that specifically for Black folks, we're conditioned to put a shelf life on our contributions to this society. I think we put a shelf life on how relevant we are, how long we're viable. And I really hope that moving forward, we're able to push against that. Because I think that, we have a lot more to offer than just always being new and innovative. I think we have a lot to offer in terms of getting in our bag and creating stuff that's from within our bag, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Creating good stuff moving forward. Does that make sense? Like, I think we burden ourselves too much with trying to be new and trendy and innovative as opposed to just existing and creating and living. We don't have to be the trendsetters all the time.
Yeah, you know what? I saw this Jay-Z interview. I guess he put it out a few years ago, but Jay-Z said, "I play forever." And so what he was saying was,
Hey,
he put it out a few years ago. Good. Okay, what's going on, Jimmy?
Jimmy.
Yeah,
Getting a lot of background noise. Hold on one second. All right.
yeah. So I was just saying that. So basically, what he was saying was, if you look at Jay-Z's career, he had a few years where he was the top guy, but he's really never just been just the guy that you would say, okay, he was just the top.
Never just
in any individual year, but over the course of his career, he's been among the top.
Right.
And so his thing was the way he plays the game is he just stays consistent. And because a lot of times like you were saying, Brian, the trends and the new hip thing that fizzles out after when you're out there, you look a certain way. It's almost like wearing a classic suit.
Right.
Whereas, like sometimes speaking of the early 2000s, there was a time where it was just all about having a whole bunch of buttons. It was the whole Steve Harvey suit thing.
Right.
Everybody knows how a Steve Harvey suit look. It's going to be colorful. It's going to have a bunch of buttons. It's going to be big. But that only lasted for that time, early 2000s. Then it fizzled out. That was the trendy thing. Whereas, you can wear a classic 2-3 button suit like in any era, going all the way back to the 50s.
Right.
And so, that was one of the things I noticed, and that's the point that Jay-Z was trying to make with his career. And when you go back and look at it, that's pretty much what it is. That's why he's able to put out, a couple of years ago, he put out 444, and it was still dope. Now it wasn't like his best work, but it wasn't his worst work either. You can still put in top 5, albums that he ever put out. And so I think it is some value in, doing it that way, the way you were saying, Brian.
Right. Well, it not only was it top 5 of his, the top 5 albums of his career, I think it also was top 5 albums that came out at that time.
Facts.
So it may not have been his best content, but at the same time, it was still better than objectively better than a lot of other stuff that was out there. And I think we put that burden too high on our musicians and stuff where, dang it, lost Jimmy again. We put that burden too high on our stuff where it's almost this expectation that it has to be transformative or
Right,
you know,
right.
absolute best of the best, as opposed to being just really, really, really good. You know, we're gonna get into it because I know that Les is a fan. Ye is caught up in a perpetual cycle of that, where he constantly tries to outdo his last project, and it's affecting his output because, you know, I'm starting to see a residual decline. And, you know, I'm not the huge Ye fan, but I can listen objectively and look and say, okay, this is good. And I can say, this isn't as good as what he's done before. And I think he's constantly trying to top himself. And when you got other issues going on, you constantly trying to top yourself and then beating yourself up when you can't. That's you're starting a slow slide into something that's a little bit darker. And so I think Ye is caught up in that. And here's what, okay, I'll throw it out there. When I see Kanye, I see a person that's fighting against being washed.
Okay.
But
I still like his stuff though. But I'm gonna let y'all talk.
I'm actually going to hop off. I can't. I'm getting antsy up here. I got stuff I need to finish. So It was fun chatting with y'all. I'll talk to y'all later.
All right.
All right.
I see somebody he's struggling against being washed. I'm gonna tell you why.
Okay.
Let me add Jimmy to the stream real quick. Let me unmute you. You hear me? Let me add Jimmy to the stream real quick. All right. You hear me?
Yeah.
Let me unmute you. You hear me?
I can hear you.
Add Jimmy to the stream real quick.
What's
Let
up?
me edit this. Let me edit.
What's up with the feedback?
Let me unmute you. You hear me? Let me add Jimmy to the stream real quick. Let me edit this. Let me edit.
What's up with the feedback?
Okay. Now we're.
Jimmy got the speakers on.
Yeah.
See what you're doing.
Hold on 1 second.
Jimmy got the speakers on.
Yeah. Hold on 1 second.
Jimmy got the speakers on.
Yeah. Hold on 1 second.
Woo!
Okay, so what's going on? Hey, Jimmy, turn off the Facebook and use StreamYard. Okay, so what's going on? Hey, Jimmy, okay. You got it? Okay, so we're talking about Ye. And I'm throwing a little bit of Ye slander, but it's not really slander. It's just kind of my perspective on it. When I look at Kanye, I see somebody who's fighting against being washed, and I'm going to tell you why. He's locked himself into a perpetual loop of trying to top his last project, and as a result, it's kind of created a negative feedback loop where we're starting to see a slow decline in the quality of his work. And it's been since I'm trying to remember exactly what album where I listened to it. I think The Life of Pablo was the first one. When I listened to it, I'm like, you know, because I wasn't a huge fan of the 808s, but I understand how good it was. I just wasn't a fan of it. But The Life of Pablo was the first time where I'm like, and I see him, like, when I see him do stuff with Push, his stuff with Push is immaculate. So he's able to do it with other people, but when it's his own content, I think he's trying to always kind of create something new and amazing and mind-blowing. And it ends up being like right now where you're squatting in a stadium. Like squatting in a stadium trying to find inspiration, and you fire one of the most prolific sound engineers, the one that's responsible for your sound in the last 10 years, you fire him. I think I'm seeing somebody who's fighting being washed. What do y'all think?
Now, this is me personally. So there's like, what do they call it? There is a genius. What is that thing called? Genius paradox.
Okay.
There's a genius paradox going on with Kanye, because normally when you get that super high quality material, there's like a bunch of ancillary antics that accompany that. But you know what? Because you get that supreme quality, you overlook the antics. But now the antics are outbalancing the content. They're outbalancing the product. You've got more of those ancillary antics than you do supreme quality, and that's becoming distracted. That's taking your focus off of Ye's actual craft.
Gotcha. I see that. I don't know. I think that he's an eccentric dude. I think he always has been.
He is.
But
Always been. He's a genius.
Yeah.
Most geniuses are eccentric.
Yeah.
And I agree with you, Richard Goode. 100%. A couple of things I want to point out. You see my shirt, brother. Anyway, back on topic. He's very eccentric. There was some stuff that happened to him personally in his life. People want to put it back towards, the passing of his mom, which kind of accented some of the eccentricity.
Yeah.
And then you started noticing it in his music, and the more he became popular, even more so. Then he got with the Kardashians. That's a freaking circus in itself.
Right.
That's an understatement.
They're a bunch of witches. They're a bunch of modern day witches. So with him being eccentric, and then you combine it with that, and him having to continuously express himself artistically, it's just a powder keg of just craziness. So dude lost me probably around 808 and Heartbreaks. The stuff that he came in with, the message that he essentially started off with, and the way that route he was going, I was with it. It was kind of like of everyman type of vibe, and I was with that. But I respect him for changing as an artist, and progressing. But he's crazy. Dude is nuts.
Yeah.
He needs help. But that still doesn't, as far as artistically as a producer, for me personally, just the music, not necessarily the content or the lyrics, but musically on production, he top 10.
Right.
Bottom line, he top 10. But I think what you were saying, Brian, about him trying to escape from being washed, he's very much on that mission as well. And you can tell. You can tell.
Well, and that's what I'm thinking, where it's the pushback. You don't want to. Here, I'm gonna put it out there. He don't want to transition into going from being the trendsetter to spitting them grown man bars to making grown man music. He's trying to influence this army of kids that prop up his products and stuff, not understanding that, here's a good example of this, and this is what we're seeing in real time. Look at what's going on in MTV, the ridiculousness channel right now.
Yeah.
MTV lost touch with the people that made MTV viable, and it stopped making content that they want to consume. And so now MTV is adrift because they have no audience, unless you like ridiculousness a lot. And
shit is whack, man.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. So MTV has lost connection with its audience, and a lot of his audience were people that were our age. We're the ones who watch The Real World. We're the ones who watch The Real World Rules Challenge. I'm the one who applauded when Brad got beat up by Darrell in the challenge house. He caught the flurry of 1,000 ancestors for being the drunk white dude. We're the ones that were watching at that time, and MTV abandoned us and have pursued the younger market, but then they lost touch with them too.
Our generation welcomed in MTV at its inception.
Right. And Ye's going through that because the kids that grew up listening to Ye are off of Ye right now. And I think that's what he's struggling up against.
You know what else? You know what else? I don't mean to bring race in it, but when Ye achieved a certain level of success, white folks started loving his music, right?
Yeah.
They did, and that's a good or a bad thing. But they started loving his music. He's at the point where he lost them. He lost his white fans.
Yeah.
So he's a total mess right now. He's a total mess. But if Ye stayed on that path, making grown folk music, do you think he would have the level of success that he does now, or has attained over the last 10 years or so?
I think so, because remember, what was one of his first big songs? Think about it.
Jesus Walks.
Jesus Walks, but the one that I heard everywhere was Slow Jams. Slow Jams.
Oh, that
grown
one.
folk music. He got an audience. People started bumping him. Oh, he brought Twisted in. So now it's a little bit 90s era, but it's still, it's still pop culture, but it's bringing some old school stuff. He would have had that what Bruno and Anderson .Paak are really pushing with that Silk Sonic stuff, or Sonic Silk, whatever.
I think Gold Digger put him over.
Right. But it's old Ray Charles. It's that old Ray Charles thing.
The familiarity.
So I think he got so caught up in the trendsetter because look, Stronger drop. What was that? That was literally a remixed Daft Punk song.
Yep.
That was a few years old. So when he started trying to be new and everything brand new and being the trendsetter, that's where he lost. That's where he started losing the connection.
And them ugly ass shoes. Ugly ass shoes, man. You famous and you can do whatever the hell you want when you put a product out there like that. There was some ugly freaking shoes, and people still gonna pay for that shit.
Yeah, the Air Dookies.
Yeah.
So, but I think we see it a lot, especially with hip hop. We're seeing a lot of people that are struggling against pivoting and leaning into being washed and having an audience that's older, and that's why we start seeing. The one I saw was Luda. Luda feels like he was really struggling with that, bro. And now the young kids, Luda slander is popular. Luda slander is almost as powerful as a CP3 slander on Twitter. Where Luda comes on and people instantly hate what he does. And a lot of it comes with still playing the young man's game, instead of really leaning into making music for his audience. He trying to make music for a generation that ain't feeling it. A lot of rappers are falling into that, bro.
But you know what's funny? You know what's funny? The way black folks treat their rap artists is totally different from the way white folks treat their rock artists.
Right.
Because our older artists, for some reason, this is various reasons, some people in our community, in our population, be like, oh, they're washed. I can't mess with them. I can't mess with them. You don't ever hear people say the Rolling Stones is washed.
No.
Or the Red Hot Chili Peppers is washed. Or Coldplay is washed. So it's I don't know. I can never figure that out with us.
I mean, now Lincoln, Nebraska just showed you that even though chronologically he is, Garth Brooks apparently ain't washed.
Word.
Right.
Word.
90,000 people.
We the only folks that do that with our hip hop artists. I don't get it.
I wouldn't have paid to see Garth. I wouldn't have gone to see Garth Brooks for free. People paid to crowd into that stadium at the biggest super spreader event of the year, and 90,000 deep to watch Garth Brooks. I don't know if does Garth Brooks have a new album? When's the last time he dropped? I remember he was doing rock for a minute, but they show up to sing the same song Garth Brooks was singing in the 90s.
Years ago.
So I think we need, and Jimmy, we went to the old school shows down at the casino. It was deep there. There's an audience for it. I can promise you that even in his prime, Kumo D did not have the kind of turnouts that he was getting on the old school circuit.
Mm-hmm.
But people were craving that connection. And Kumo D went into his library, his bag of songs that nobody knows. And he had the crowd captivated. But that's what I'm saying. We watched Kumo D, we watched Salt and Pepper, we watched Naughty by Nature. There's an audience for that. We still want to hear our artists.
Underrated, by the way. I just want to say that real quick. Naughty by Nature, in my opinion, one of the most underrated rap groups ever.
Right.
I mean,
one of the most underrated MCs ever. People forget about Church.
Short run.
Yeah, Church is a beast, man. But that's just, that's me.
Bro, Tretch came out and he sounded just like he did on the record. And then he took his shirt off and the women acted just like it was 1993.
Right.
Woo! Tretch. Brandy was like, ooh, Tretch. So,
Man, I went for Salt. Boy.
But I think what we're saying is, I think for specifically with Black artists, we tend to and Jimmy, we were talking about it earlier, where hip hop is turning into what jazz was, or what's happened with jazz, where white folks discovered jazz, and all of the artists that were popular that crossed over ended up getting thrown away once they lost interest in jazz, when jazz was no longer trendy. But jazz was always our music, made by our people. And we kind of did what they did, where we're just like, well, we don't want to see this anymore. And, first of all, they took it, they homogenized it, and then they disposed of it, and we allowed it to be disposed of. And a lot of influential jazz artists died broke.
Right.
Because
word up.
Hip hop, DMX, I don't know what his net worth was. I know it's not anywhere near where it was when he was at the peak of his powers. The industry used him and threw him aside.
Once you, I got a couple examples. I'll start early on, back in the 80s and the early 90s. We've seen hip hop artists who gained mainstream appeal. I'm going to use De La Soul as a big example. When 3 Feet High and Rising came out, and it finally hit the mainstream, meaning MTV, it got homogenized, like you were saying, and they got pigeonholed.
Right.
Along with groups like Arrested Development and some others, but they got pigeonholed. Oh, these are the hippies of hip hop. That's what the white folks wanted to see. They were, radio friendly, stuff like that. These are the hippies of hip hop. Thus, De La Soul was like, well, we're not really trying to be pigeonholed like that. We're hip hop artists. We want to remain to be artists. Thus, spawned De La Soul is dead.
Right.
Kind of debunk that whole package, right? And it did exactly that. But it's kind of a double-edged sword, because I look at, there's some white folks that, as with the jazz, that truly appreciate authenticity. Like they don't want no fake shit. They want, I can curse on here, can I?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay. I don't want to make sure there ain't no kids around. But they truly appreciate the authenticity of the music. They want that real stuff as much as some of us real heads do, right? Point in case. When I go here in Omaha, Nebraska, when I go to some of the hip hop shows, a lot of them are being promoted by white promoters.
Right.
One, for example, the Waiting Room. And I've seen great shows at the Waiting Room, but they're being brought in by white promoters. The audience is primarily white, because they support that stuff, and a lot of us do not. So it's a double-edged sword. You got the ones that are into, the mainstream, what's hot, what's not, and we like 1 minute, the next minute we're done. But then you still got some out there that are like, man, I need that Wu-Tang, I need that real shit, and they about it. So it's kind of a double-edged sword with that. But I don't know. I just observed that over the last several years of my music listening, especially in particularly live music.
Jimmy, now you know what? Kind of piggybacking off of what you were just talking about. That kind of takes me back to that show that Keith Sweat did like a couple years back. I want to say it was like 2019, 2018.
Oh, bro.
Yeah. You already know where I'm going. You know where I'm going. Now, I believe it was a black promoter that brought Keith Sweat into town. Had him do the show and everything. But then he decided he wanted to get funny with Keith's money, and Keith just let it be known on stage, like, "Hey, you know what? Now, but by all rights, I should jump off this stage right now, jump on my plane, and go back to the ATL because somebody getting funny with my money. But all y'all turned out, all my fans turned out, so I'm here for y'all. I ain't even here for the money at this point. I'm here for y'all." And then he just carried on with the show. But everyone knew from that point on, oh, wow, Keith Sweat ain't never coming back to Omaha because money with his money.
Well, I think it goes to, I remember watching him on the Versus with Bobby Brown, and we talk about washed. Keith and Bobby are both realize that they washed. Bobby is still in the Doug Love era with Ja Rule videos, and he's comfortable. He's happy with who he is, and Keith Sweat is happy with who he is. And to see that stream and see women react to how them brothers was up there, they didn't care because them brothers was comfortable in their own skin with who they were. They wasn't trying to be these young boys, and we're trying to be out there doing all that young boy stuff. Jimmy, quick question: when did you realize you was washed, man?
First of all, I ain't washed. All right. If you stay cool, you ain't got to be cool. So these others can do whatever they want. But if you cool with yourself, that's the main thing. But no. Okay. All right. There's I'll break it down for you. There's physically washed.
Yep.
Now I've had that happen. And it probably started when I was living in Baltimore.
Hold up, Jimmy. You were living where?
For 4 years. Hey, they chased me out of there, man. Because 08, that's when we won that Super Bowl. They chased me out of there, man. But I was playing softball for the work team and stuff, and I went from third base to outfield, right? And cats was smacking the ball at me. I couldn't freaking see. I couldn't see the ball coming. And I was like, dang, maybe I need to get my eyes checked. And then my back went bad on me. So I probably started feeling physically washed probably about 10 years ago. Let's see. Oh, and then there's this, right?
Hey, man.
But check it out though. This is what happened to me.
Look at Brian.
Yeah, Brian still got all his hair, man.
Yeah, that's a blessing,
right here.
When my barber, I sat in the chair and I still had a little bit of hair. I was still getting the fade and stuff, right? And my barber, she was like, "What can I do for you?" I said, "Let me get my regular, right?" So she just started walking around my chair, right? Just looking at me, right? And I'm like, what the heck is going on, right? She circled the whole chair, and she said, "Baby," this is a woman, she's an older lady, Miss Alice, this is my barber back in the day. She said, "Baby, just let it go." I said, "What you mean?" What you talking? What do you mean? She said, just let it go. And she's like, I'll shave it all off. It'll be okay. You'll be fine. I'll take care of you. So that's when, my hairline was receding and stuff. And I mean, that was it, man. It couldn't have took an act of contrition to bring my hairline back. So that was another washed moment, physically, but mentally, I don't really feel washed, man. I don't know about y'all. What y'all got to say about that?
Go ahead, Les, because I got one.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say that I really I got to get ready to take my son to the store. He waiting on me, but And so before I say what I'm gonna say, I just want to say that this has been good, and Brian, I'm enjoying the content that you're creating, man. This is good stuff. But I just want to piggyback on what Jimmy said real quick. I forgot about that. That was a big moment in my watchness.
That hair?
Sitting in the barber chair, and my barber, he's been my barber for years. And mind you, I was only like 25, 26 at the time. And he was cutting my hair. He was like, Les, he's like, man, it's not really much I can do for you anymore.
Yeah.
And it was just, it took him, because I was in a sense of denial, because I was putting stuff in my hair. I didn't know what was going on. I was trying to stretch it, and I was, doing this stuff, and I was like, what's going on? And I was in denial. But it took him sitting me in the chair and just it was almost like a little intervention, hey man.
It was.
And he told me straight up, and then ever since then, I just been, cutting it off, and here we go,
Yeah.
And so
you gotta embrace the slick life.
You got to embrace it. Yeah. But look, man, I'm gonna head on now, man. Brian, I appreciate this, man. This has been good. Hit me up when it's time for the Batman slander. I'm here, Doc. I'm here. All right, Richard, Jimmy.
All right, bro.
All right, man. All right, y'all. All right.
You ain't washed, bro. You ain't washed.
Yes, sir.
So, Jimmy, we definitely got to have you on for the Batman slander episode, because I need a pro Batman person.
I'll jump on, man. I haven't read a lot of Batman lately, and that's because I think the Joker is just too OP, man. I mean, he's a freaking clown.
It's been good. Here's the thing. They've kind of hedged some of that. It's actually been pretty good. They've tried to retcon it, explain it away. They gave him regenerative powers or whatnot. He has the Lazarus pit stuff in his blood. So that's how describes how he survives all this stuff. Did you follow any of the Batman Who Laughs stuff? Okay, so, and I know this is way off topic. The Batman Who Laughs is basically an alternate version of Batman who got Jokerized. So he killed he killed the Joker in his universe, and he got Jokerized. So it's a Jokerized version of Batman. So the Batman with the Joker's, I don't know if with Joker's nihilism and mental acumen and stuff, but with all of Batman's resources and abilities, and he took over the universe. So
I'll tune in. I mean, where's my damn arm at? I'm a bat. That's the wrong arm. My Fisher Price first tattoo. That signal. Because I grew up loving Batman as a kid. So no, that's cool. That's cool. I'm interested to see what Dell got to say.
Well,
live is probably valid.
I got my takes on Batman and why I think that they've kind of fumbled the ball. A lot of my angst, it's not even with Batman as much as Jason Todd. I don't like Jason Todd. I hate him as a character, and I think they fumbled the bag with him. I fumbled the ball with him a lot. But I do have some pretty unique takes on Batman. But his books are actually improving. They stripped out a lot of what he can do. They took away most of his fortune. They took away most of his gadgets. And so now it's just him fighting crime. Okay. And it's not as OP. And then the entire thread with Joker and and Jim Gordon getting paid to kill the Joker. And that story is pretty dope. And Joker, it's kind of an expose on who Joker is and stuff like that and how he sees the world. And Bane's daughter hunting the Joker is wild. Anyway, but yeah, we'll have that one coming up. I guess for me, the wrapping this whole wash thing up, because we're almost at a 3-hour stream now. Wrapping this up, I think it's about really embracing who you are and what you're comfortable with.
Exactly.
And stop trying to live life for other people.
Exactly.
Stop trying to live life to impress other people. And I think a lot of young folks are so caught up in, and there's a lot that aren't, and they don't really have to ever have this dialogue with themselves. But there's a point where you finally do opt out and say, I've had enough. I had enough chasing. I had enough trying to impress people. I've had enough trying to be trendy. I've had enough of all this other stuff, and I'm ready to move on with my life with who I am. I dress how I dress. I listen to what I listen to. I watch what I watch. I consume what I consume. I'm on this social media platform or I'm not. But I'm not falling into what other people are doing and not living life by other people's expectations. And I think that's the core part of embracing being washed. I'm saying washed is kind of a joke, but it's really embracing that maturity of this is what I am. And not be one of the people that's where you're saying they're set in their ways, where they have a bunch of toxic bullshit in their mind and they're just locked in on that. And they're, well, I'm too old to change now. I'm talking about being more or less comfortable with who they are.
Not keeping up with the Joneses.
Right.
Exactly. I've always tried to live like that. It's not easy because sometimes you get ostracized for being authentic, but I wouldn't be any other way. My parents encouraged me to be authentic, and I think y'all probably the same. Now, the physical thing that's a little different. That's a little different. But Richard, you my brother. You my August brother.
Yeah.
So happy birthday! I'm gonna turn 49 tomorrow. Actually,
hey, happy early birthday, man!
Happy birthday, man.
We ain't washed, man. The only thing we got going on that's washed is the clothes, as far as I'm concerned. You know what I mean? So, but I hate that I jumped in late on the conversation because I heard some of it like, oh wow, yeah, this is real. This is real. But yeah, looking forward to jumping in and hopefully earlier on some other stuff. Before y'all go, are y'all Summer Slamming it or what?
I'm gonna try. Last night I watched AEW for the first time in a long time to see the CM Punk one. That was dope.
Really?
Watching CM Punk, like grown men were crying. He was in tears. It was one of the most authentic moments in wrestling. It sounds weird, but it was really like the super authentic moment. And him talking realistically and finally putting his voice on what happened with the WWE thing, where he says, I was in a place where I was sick and I wasn't going to get better staying in that place.
Yeah.
Because if you know the backstory, they almost killed him. Like literally, when I say almost killed him, like a staph infection that their doctors misdiagnosed for a couple of weeks. And if he hadn't got out what he did, you're talking about finding him dead in a hotel room somewhere. And, working through concussions and all the other stuff. So it's dope to see him in a place. I hope that, and we're probably, you know what? I'm thinking we probably need to do a wrestling live stream so we can dive deep into this. But I do think that him being in AEW is going to be kind of a calming influence on that company because they do a lot of stupid stuff. And having him and Bryan Danielson in the company, in the owner's ear, because the owner is the booker too, and saying this shit is stupid, don't do this. I think it's going to calm things down because right now he's got like Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks in his ear, and they're telling him all this goofy stuff to do. And I think having CM Punk say, I'm not doing that stupid stuff, is going to help out. But SummerSlam, I don't know. I think so. I think I'll watch it. I want to see Bianca be at Belair. I do want to see the Roman Reigns and John Cena one, even though I feel like I know how that's going to go. For whatever reason, Edge and Seth Rollins should excite me. It just doesn't.
Yeah, I'm not too moved by it. I'll have it on for sure. But yeah, Bianca's match, Reigns and Cena. Yeah.
I'm actually more excited about TakeOver tomorrow. I want to see NXT TakeOver.
See, that's what I was going to bring up right there is that I don't know about either one of y'all, but have y'all noticed, have y'all thought it was kind of funny that they switched the nights of SummerSlam TakeOver? Actually, when they have the TakeOvers, they're Saturday night, and then the main roster pay-per-view is Sunday. So why the switch up this time around?
For the fight. Because it was supposed to be the Pacquiao fight,
okay,
Errol Spence fight, and they moved it so they wouldn't be in direct competition. I I think the thing we're seeing the end of NXT, because at the end of the day, I think Vince sees NXT as a rival promotion, even though there is own internal promotion, and he's doing everything he can to kill it.
That's some Vince shit. You know, that's Vince shit. You know how to do it, man.
Because everybody started talking about how great Triple H was doing, and the instant they started doing that, that's when you started seeing guys like Keith Lee, you know, Karrion Kross, you know, Samoa Joe, all those guys that really were megastars on NXT. That's when you start seeing them getting shoved down the roster and demoted massively. And you know, he couldn't do it to Seth Rollins. He couldn't do it to Roman Reigns because they both came through the NXT system via Triple H too. But I think he views them as internal competition instead of embracing it as this is a fan base that I need to cater to. Because I think Vince is discounting the fact that if he screws up NXT, he's going to lose that fan base forever.
And now this last little round of like talent cuts that actually involved NXT talent, that was Vince and Bruce Pritchard. Like Triple H was not in consultation at all in that process.
Nope.
All that was Vince and Bruce Pritchard.
And they let go of Bronson Reed, and the only reason they let go of Bronson Reed was because he's a big dude.
But Vince likes big dudes. Like what?
He likes bodybuilder big dudes. He doesn't like big dudes that can actually move. That's why Samoa Joe never got his shot. That's why Walter is the most convincing dude on the program, and I don't think he's going to get his fair shot on the main roster. No,
not at all. Not at all.
But Keith Lee was a different situation. I thought Vince was holding him back. Actually, WWE kind of saved Keith Lee's. You know, they helped Keith Lee out a lot because of the COVID stuff, and then he had that heart infection. Yeah, his heart was swelling and all the other stuff.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's why he was gone. He had a COVID infection, and then it went to his heart, and so he was having swelling with his heart and stuff. And WWE actually paid for him to go out and see specialists and things like that to help him out. And that's why he was off TV for that long. But I think Vince inherently sees the NXT as competition, and he's going to bury him. And it's weird because I also think that he's trying to bolster AEW because he's looking for a rival like WCW because that's when WWE was doing its biggest numbers.
Yeah, them numbers and ratings was. Yeah.
So they can have a war, actually.
Yep.
So it's weird. That's why I think that's why Bray Wyatt, he didn't stop Bray Wyatt from getting cut because he's like, well, he can go over there. But I think Vince is underestimating. Like, when I'm watching grown men cry because CM Punk is back, I think he's underestimating the passion of that audience.
And man, when they were chanting his name last night, like, obviously, I was sitting here like, y'all were sitting at home too, but man, you could almost feel that arena rocking when they were saying his name.
That's what's up.
One person I hope moves from AEW, actually does move from AEW and goes to WWE, is MJF, because he is a prototypical heel, like a prototypical heel. Like, he's great on the mic, he's great in the ring, but he is he's an old school heel, and WWE doesn't really have that outside of Roman Reigns.
Yeah,
but he has the ability to be the guy that you absolutely hate, and I'm talking about Ted DiBiase level kind of hate. Now
the little bit that I've seen of MJF, he kind of reminds me of peak Miz, like when Miz was at his absolute apex.
Yeah, I remember. Who did I think of when I saw him? I was thinking more of, it'd be like Tully Blanchard with Ric Flair's ability to talk on the mic.
Ooh, that's nasty.
That level of kind of heelish, where he's just oozing bad guy. Like, I mean, when I saw him flip off that little kid at the autograph signing, dude, I'm like, he's got it figured out, man. He flipped off that little kid. But just watching he embraces the concept of being old school. And he's even said he goes back and watches old Midnight Express matches and old Four Horsemen stuff. He watches that and puts it into his stuff. And so that's why you see a lot of the old school mannerisms of those NWA era heels. I think that if he got to WWE, he'd be the biggest villain on the card, and it'd be perfect for him
if they let him.
If they would let him, which is up in the air because of Vince is going to Vince. But there's a couple of guys, but I think MJF would be dope on a WWE roster. They need somebody like that. They need somebody because Seth Rollins is not a bad guy, and it's hard, he struggles with that piece of it. Roman Reigns is a natural heel. I don't know why they try to push him as a good guy. I don't ever know why. I don't understand why they pushed him like that.
Yeah.
But that's the aside, guys. I think we probably should do a wrestling stream.
I'm with it.
Maybe even a recap of SummerSlam, a recap of TakeOver. I'm not going to be able to – I don't know if I'm going to watch the whole SummerSlam because I just feel like Vince's fingerprints are too far on this. I don't like Bobby Lashley versus Goldberg. I wish they.
Yeah, man. And the Berg is my boy, but I'm like, man, I can only watch him spear and he lose or spear and win so much now, and the spear is so slow.
He's about to get. I think he's about to get squashed tonight. I think Bobby Lashley's going to squash him so they can build him and Brock Lesnar for WrestleMania.
I'm used to like 90s Goldberg where like he spears somebody, you be in the other room, you hear that, you know, back in the day, it ain't there no more. It's terrible to look at.
Well, when that spear that he gave Lashley this last Monday, man, that was about the weakest spear I ever seen.
Right.
Terrible, man.
Well, I think if you had me fantasy booking WWE, I would have kept the Hurt Business together. I would have recruited Keith Lee, kicked out Cedric Alexander, and kept the Hurt Business as a stable that was terrorizing the Raw roster because they were the best thing on the show.
They were dope. Yo, that spear looked like he gave him a hug.
Right.
Like, here you go. Like he hugged him.
But I think we could do a wrestling recap show. So let's plan on that. I'll figure out a time and stuff. But make sure you take your notes on the matches, and then we can sit down and talk to them. Low-key, I'm thinking that it's not – Ciampa isn't wrestling this weekend, right? Is he at TakeOver? Does Tommaso Ciampa have a match at TakeOver?
Isn't he in that tag match with Timothy Thatcher?
Might be. But I think the match of the night is probably going to be Cole and O'Reilly. I think that's going to be – and then Dragunov and
Walter, yes.
Walter is probably going to be the match of the year.
Yes.
So take your notes on that one, and then we can reconvene with that one. We can do a separate. We'll do a separate one on this one. I like this format, y'all. I think we could do something with this.
Hey man, this is probably the highlight of my weekend right here.
So, well, thank you. I appreciate it, y'all. We're about to sign off, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. David, man, you got to jump on the stream, bro. Jump on the stream next time so we can have you, so we can bring you in too. But if you're watching this, we're live streaming on YouTube, Facebook. We'll try to do it maybe a couple weekends a month. We're gonna have Batman Slander coming up, and I guess we're gonna be doing our take on TakeOver and SummerSlam. So we'll get back to you guys. Appreciate your brothers tuning in. Appreciate you guys jumping on, and I'll talk to y'all later.
Peace, y'all.